We did it.
Buenas tardes.
Made it another week.
Señores y señoritos.
How you guys doing? How you guys feeling?
Good.
Yeah. Not so corona-y.
Not very corona.
My trainer is... Yeah, my new trainer is Mark Maron, which is weird as hell.
Same guy?
Like, he named Mark, different guy, obviously, but same everything about him. Like,
that's funny.
It's weird.
So, all right. You guys there? I can't see you guys anymore. I used to be able to see you. There you are. I can see you on the thing here. Our setup apparently doesn't allow me to do the big AirPlay projection like I was doing before, which was awesome. But what do you guys got? What do you guys got in your glass?
I have a matcha tea with raspberry syrup, a big coffee, and sparkling water.
That's quite the cocktail.
I'm going to hold off on that for a little bit. Son of a bitch. I need towels.
I can't see.
Can I have a towel?
What do you got, Kevlar?
I also have a producer now.
Yeah?
Yep.
I just saw the brightness on it was all messed up.
The camera where it is.
It's okay.
All right. Your producer's talking a lot.
Yay.
Does your producer realize she's not meant to be on the show?
I don't think my producer realizes she's not supposed to be on the show.
Okay, because I can hear her a lot in the back. Kevlar, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking some Crown Peach and sweet tea. Delicious.
Wow, that's like North Carolina sweet tea right there.
Sure.
I got...
It's Arizona tea, but we already got that shit.
That's a good point. Good point. I can see on this.
Oh.
Kevlar's a little lower than everybody else, but I think we can hear him. I'm having Jim Beam Black Extra Aged Bourbon. It's supposed to be the world's highest rated bourbon.
Nice.
So hopefully we can get ourselves a cease and desist, or a sponsorship would be nicer.
How is anything Jim Beam made considered the highest rated bourbon in the world?
Yeah, it's
there's like expensive ass bourbons like that. What was that? $14, $15?
I don't know.
Is it like based on like they sell the most? Because college kids buy Jim Beam.
Yeah.
No, it's Old Crow that sells them all.
So I guess my question would be: did you want an answer, or are you gonna just keep saying whatever you want?
I'm good either way. I can keep going.
I've noticed.
Yeah.
So it looks like the idea is they got the trophy in 2016 from the International Wine and Spirit Competition. It was a quality award back then, 2016. So it was the world's highest rated back then. I don't know if it still is. But that's interesting. It's neat to think about. I mean, having Jim Beam standard or whatever is cheaper than this one. But you never think about like the guys that you like or the cheap versions of stuff having really high-end stuff. This one, maybe they do.
Well, it's like all the different styles of Jack.
Yeah, that's true. You can start off with Jack for $10, or you can get all the way up to like a $70 bottle of Jack.
Yeah, or even Crown for that matter too. Crown has some reserve and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Fair, granted. I do have a question in that case. Is that the one they did, or is that like we just have a special label on it? I'm kidding.
What do you mean?
I want to see the reaction to this because I remember Jim Beam. Jim Beam was not good.
I mean, it's not bad.
And I drank a lot of whiskey when I drank.
It's got a lot more of like a caramel kind of smell to it.
Is it smoky flavored?
It does seem a bit smoky. I was about to say smoky actually before you said that. I was like, it's kind of a smoky caramel.
Nice. Is it from the fire?
Almost a little bit floral, but not quite. So I don't think it smells like standard Jim Beam.
Yeah, I thought it was. When I got it, I thought it would be a bit better than the standard.
And it looks a little more golden than the standard. The standard, as I'm pouring it, it looks like a golden color, where the standard one's a little darker, I think.
So like dehydrated piss, not hospital piss?
I don't know why you have to say anything we're drinking is piss if we're looking for a sponsorship, Clump.
Or cease and desist. Or cease and desist.
I guess that's our other option.
It's definitely
Hold on one
not what
second.
we're going for.
Yeah. Like when we started doing the NWA watch-alongs, and we're like, hey, maybe we get NWA to like want to work with us, and then we're watching it, and Clump's like, this is horse shit. This idiot over here looks like a big dumb piece of shit, and I'm like, dude, like we don't want to cease and desist from NWA.
Only do your thing.
Just because I was fucking accurate.
Is Kevlar back yet?
Not yet.
I'm back.
Now he's back.
No.
He's sitting.
Let's see. Before we get into
We
the
heard
shows,
you yell at your kids the entire time.
we definitely heard a lot of kid talk.
Stop it, goddammit.
Yeah.
Got extra producers today.
Yeah. This is going really well. Welcome to the show, Wrestling on the Rocks, where every show is like our first show. We're doing the worst we can.
Unintentional.
Are we succeeding?
Yeah. How are we meeting your guys' expectations?
How are we making any money on this at all? I like that we've gone from like bare minimum to we're doing the worst. We have skills and we're just like, nah.
Well, I mean, that's what it feels like for sure.
Well, we want to stand out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't want to be like all those idiots doing it, right?
Yeah. We don't want to be like the norm.
Yeah. So I got some notes and stuff we want to go through today. Let's just real quick, before we get into all the shows, I do want to know off the top who watched what shows. Kevlar, what did you watch this week?
Raw, SmackDown, and I actually watched AEW.
And AEW, but you did not watch NXT?
No.
Very cool. No, it's all good. Because we're going to talk about that a little bit as well. The idea of what we're picking and why. Because I think that might be relative to the ratings, as it were. Clint, what did you watch this week?
AEW, SmackDown, and Raw. I did watch all three.
But not NXT.
I did not watch NXT.
Okay. No, totally fine. Totally good. Now, before we get into the actual show, where we talk about all that stuff, Kevlar, you got a couple of cool things in the mail today, did you not?
I did. Got some stuff from Pro Wrestling Tees. A couple mystery shirts, or a mystery shirt, and a couple mystery pins.
Mystery pins. I saw they were doing that. Every now and again they do those mystery 8x10s as well, but those make me nervous. It's because they work with so many indie guys. I'm like, I don't know.
Well, that and one of us has gotten the crate, it seems like, every month for the past year, so
Yeah.
it's got to be.
That's true. But there's also some like old legends that I wish I had gotten their crate when it was out. But
Yeah.
I just don't know if those are the ones that are going to be going out and they're mystery ones or not. And I feel like it's just too
First,
dicey.
I got the Wrestling on the Rocks. Of course, I was with that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Holding it up. Nice.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah, good.
So the mystery shirt I got was actually from the Pro Wrestling crate that I already got. So now I have two of these.
Oh, really?
The Good Brothers. Yeah.
The Good Brothers, is it the blue one?
Brother Me Softly.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Brother Me Softly.
Well, that's good, though. Now you can have a sleeveless one.
Or one with stains on it.
Or one with what on it? Stains?
Some stains.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just make sure I rock one the whole time, and then when I get stains on it. So the pins I got was a nice Kevin Steen. You can see that?
Oh, yeah? That's cool.
Yeah. He's all bloody.
Nice.
And
That's
then I got the Rocco, or not the Rocco, the Rugrats, Marco stuff.
Oh.
That's cool.
Yeah, that was Tommy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't have that one.
Yeah.
That's
It's
I like that they at least own that he's small.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Dork Chop.
Dork Chop, what up?
You.
Yeah, I actually got that one and I gave it away as a gift because I thought it was so good. I just wanted to go to somebody who really liked Marco Stunt, and so I gave that one out. But
Is there anyone that actually likes him?
there's people I know who like everything on that show.
Yeah.
So. Well, that's
I
cool.
can't see. Are you pointing towards Clump?
No, it was not Clump on this one. Although the next crate, me and Clump are going to be splitting for sure because there's quite a few names in there that I was not interested in having their merch.
Well, it automatically renewed, so I'm getting it as well.
Oh, yeah. So the other cool thing about that, or I think maybe the interesting bit, is that it sold out right away. It's already sold out, yeah. After everyone renewed, it was basically sold out. So what they started doing, which what they announced, I don't know if it's going to be exclusively for this crate or any other crate, but now they're doing an $18 crate that will give you just the 2 exclusive shirts.
That's
Doing
cool.
that for a while.
I think it's really cool. I think it's super smart. I think there's a lot of people who would like mystery shirts every month who are not interested in getting pins and 8x10s and all the other stuff. You know what I mean?
They've had
Absolutely.
that crate for a while.
Just the t-shirt one?
Yeah.
Why did they email me like it was new? I mean, I definitely didn't know about it.
I remember when the first one signed up, it had like the tiers of crates,
Yeah.
and one of them was just the 2 T-shirts for $18.99.
I bet you it's been there, and I bet you they're just advertising it because since they're not trying to sell the whole crate, it's just like, hey guys, get this. I bet you that's all it is they're advertising for that crate now. Either way, it's super smart, and if you're into the t-shirts and not all the other stuff, totally worth it, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. What the hell?
What? Yeah.
I thought I put the new sticker on both.
Oh.
Oh well. We're even. Our sticker game is like it's our first day.
You guys are the ones that used it.
Yeah.
Don't blame Jim Beam.
Yeah, it was not Jim Beam's fault this time. So let's see. Well, that was cool. I think those pins were neat. The shirt was good. I'm glad that you got the purple Wrestling on the Rocks one. We decided to make that one a different color specifically for you, Kevlar. We knew you would not want another black shirt.
Yeah.
I am so happy for that because I really hate black shirts because they just fade. So purple is way cooler to me. Good call.
Yeah. Well, and 99% of wrestling shirts are black.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And it goes along with our overall theme. The Crown Royal stuff we're always drinking. Twitch itself is all purple. I thought it would look cool and, be a little shout out.
Yeah.
Little inside baseball. Awesome. Well, thank everybody for tuning in who happens to be here. And feel free to derail us at any time. We are looking to be derailed. You guys both caught Raw, so we'll go over that bit on Raw. Have either of you guys watched all of Dark Side of the Ring?
Yes, I'm totally caught up. I'm excited for this week's episode too.
Have you watched Dark Side of the Ring at all, Kev?
No, I have not.
I just signed up for Hulu Live. I got rid of Sling, so if you've been using my Sling, you got about 4 more days of it. It will cancel. If you have not, Hulu Live, I think is actually, it's going to be a lot more conducive to everything that we watch. So, but I did want to talk about real quick. Let's talk a little bit about Dark Side of the Ring. So, Clump, you were saying earlier you thought this last episode was kind of weird.
Well, that was more. So, there's enough of the subtitling to it. I had trouble watching it because I would watch it and it'd be like I'd half understand it, and so I'd be like double reading. So I almost had to put the episode on mute.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of French in there, a lot of French Canadian. So this last episode,
Yeah.
the last episode was on Dino Bravo and his murder. I thought that was totally crazy. I remember hearing about it a little bit, but I didn't realize.
Cigarettes?
Yeah, that cigarette thing, and like he shot like 11 times. It's like, fuck.
Well, and to my family, the family on my mother's side that is into wrestling, Dino Bravo was a huge figure because they're in Quebec and northern Maine and in New Brunswick, and that's that territory that he was in extends all over that area. They hold shows all over, and so Dino Bravo was a big guy. I talked to a few family members in the past about that when I was way into wrestling as a kid, and they would always talk about like Dino Bravo. It was weird to me because I didn't know anyone.
Yeah.
So I was like, what is this? And then watching this, it kind of made me reconnect and remember, like, oh yeah, Justice was talking about him, or this person was talking about him. Let's like look him up more. It was really, really cool, and I like stuff from that area of the world just because I have this weird connection to it. So I'm always like This is neat.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
forgot how just physically big he was. When they were showing even him losing to like Hogan and stuff, and it showed him off on the side of the ring all upset, he's just huge, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just forgot how big. So I thought it was really neat that all the stuff that happened after wrestling is really when everything got crazy for him. But I don't know, it was a really interesting story. Dork Chop says that he's only really watched the Benoit episode, but has been listening to the catch-ups on the JR podcast.
Yeah.
How have those been? Because I stopped listening to a lot of podcasts, especially with a lot of the people who've signed on to companies, because I feel like the nature of a lot of them have changed and the tone has changed. But I didn't know how JR and Conrad would do with the breakdown at Dark Side of the Ring. And I'm also surprised they're doing like catch-ups after all of them, which I think is interesting. Maybe it's just because JR is in some of them.
Yeah. I think I think it almost warrants its own show, and I kind of want to hear the producers for this have their own show with Conrad. I like seeing this as an aside in the GR podcast, but I don't know. It kind of takes away from JR to me, you know?
Well, Dorkchop says that the interview actually is not even with JR on that one, that it's just the two directors and Conrad. So that might be interesting to... I don't know. I should check them out, I think. I finally got caught up on all of them. I think it's a really good series. I think that they do a pretty decent job of trying to shed light on the stuff, but also try to redirect some of the negativity into the other side of things that people aren't looking at and some of the other players that people don't talk about. I think it's really cool that they highlight those people as well. It was really cool to see the Dino Bravo's family talking about him.
I was going to ask you a little bit about that to get your perspective on a few episodes because, you know, we talk about this year a little bit more of a WWE marker than I am. When, just a little bit, when they did the Snuka episode, that episode really laid in on the idea that Vince, you know, might have played a part in hiding information about Nancy Argentino.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of... that was an interesting way to go about it. I mean, obviously we don't know. None of us know. And they tried to say that they didn't know, but they did point a lot of things at like, oh, well, Vince obviously paid people off and stuff. And like, well, I don't know that he had to pay people off for that shit to kind of go that it went the way that it went. Let's see. Dorkchop says they talk about a lot that doesn't make each episode, so probably good for additional viewing, not a replacement for the actual episodes by any means. That'd be cool. So on the Cornette podcast, he actually, about 2 weeks or 3 weeks after the Benoit one, had Kevin Sullivan on to do a full interview to get Kevin Sullivan's side of, like, kind of get his story on the whole thing, because his absence in that episode kind of came off as kind of damning, because every time they said something negative about Kevin Sullivan, they just show that one thing saying Kevin Sullivan didn't want to talk about it. And the reason that Kevin Sullivan didn't want to be on there is just because he's never gotten permission from Nancy's family to talk about it. And that's what he did first, was ask them if it was okay that he speak on his side of the story at all. And they've never given him the okay, so he never wanted to offend them. That's been his take. Yeah.
That's respectful.
That's kind of his thing. He says that he has so much respect and love for that family and could never understand emotionally what they've been through, that he didn't want to upset them or do something that they thought was wrong. So that's why he wasn't on the episode. And so it was kind of cool on the Cornette one that he got to tell a lot more of the stuff, and they got to dig in a little bit deeper on it. So some of those, I think absolutely you need almost a companion piece. So
I agree with that. I think that's a neat perspective to have had. The other recent kind of documentary I'd seen on Benoit or listened to on a podcast I like, and I've said this before, it was god awful. And they went into and talked a lot about Kevin Sullivan and like led in a lot about his silence on it. And it really didn't make me feel happy to listen to that. And it didn't feel well researched. It didn't feel like they really sought out perspective. It focused on the crime and the events leading up to it in their eyes with regard to Benoit.
yeah.
And that's just really unfair. I think that The only thing on that episode I didn't like was I did feel like it kind of, in some ways, felt, and this is just me being a dick, self-serving to Chris Jericho.
Yeah.
And it was the first episode I really felt when they talked to, and I know that this is talking about, in many ways, the bad sides of the industry. They asked, did anyone reach out to you? No. And I feel like that's a really short answer. And I feel like they're doing a thing that you often will do when you're writing or making a piece, where when you're asking someone for an interview and they say no, and they're going to say no, you do it so that you can put at the end, we reached out for comment, they declined. Because it really kind of adds its own flair to it. You know what I mean? When you have this, they're a player in the story based on what you're doing, and they refuse to comment, you can really portray that in them denying it almost. And
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Especially after you show all the different people who are willing to talk about it and who were defending and not defending things, that if you place it correctly, you can absolutely say, here's where they pled the fifth because they didn't want to admit it. You know what I mean? Is almost what it comes off as.
Yeah.
So
I feel like JR's perspective on that was really needed there, because he gave, when JR's been present, he gives kind of like a humanizing aspect to the WWE in these. Same with on season 1 where they had Pritchard on some. He gave a humanizing aspect like the WWE side. I almost wish there was a person to have from, like a person to have on this that has that perspective from the 70s or 80s, who could provide that voice.
Yeah. Someone who's not going to go out there and just say that everything you think about that company is evil. Someone who can go in there and be like, hey, it's also a business, or there's this other side of it, or maybe this was the other human part of it you didn't even know about, Like, I agree. I think it's really easy to fall into that narrative, and sometimes the shows don't help that. And definitely the Snuka show didn't help that at all, that narrative.
Yeah.
But again, who are they going to interview for something like that, Snuka, like you said? It's kind of nuts.
Yeah, and I feel like, an easy thing to say there with the Snuka episode specifically, and I know we're maybe going longer than you wanted here, when you are a company that small, and you have one of your bigger performers involved in a legal case, and you have a performer who can't read English, can't write in English, apparently, has difficulty there.
I didn't catch them actually bring up his illiteracy, did you? I felt like they left that out.
His wife did. They talked to his wife a little bit, and she came in. I could see a boss coming in, because it's somebody who's like, if I'm a performer and I'm an independent contractor in a sense, Vince might be the person I trust most and care about the most, in this, and you want him in there because he has more familiarity. So you might ask him,
Well, they also said that, because they were talking about, I remember them talking about they would hand him contracts and say, if you don't sign this, you won't get paid. And he would just sign things and he wouldn't know what was in it. But I don't remember them talking about how he was legitimately illiterate. That's something that they talked about on the Bruce Pritchard podcast. If you went out to dinner with him, he would order whatever you ordered because he couldn't read the menu. Yes. So he would just, in order to not be embarrassed by it, he would just, whatever you get, I'll get the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But
I feel like, and I feel like by doing it that way, the way that episode came off to me, my view of what happened in Nancy Argentino is a tragedy, and there's a lot of questions regarding Jimmy Snuka. And, it's unfortunate that it all came to light so late, and we won't know because of that.
Yeah.
He didn't have a fair day in court, so we can't guess that. It doesn't sound good, though.
The
episode there, I feel like, rather than focusing on Snuka, which they did, toward the end especially, they threw this other, almost the true, narrative that the true villain here is not Jimmy Snuka, but is this.
Yeah.
Which, to me, it's one thing to say, Jimmy Snuka did this, and it's horrible. That's, there's an argument to be made there. That's the argument that those reporters did. But to then go into this part, it's just, to me, at times kind of like a bridge too far.
Yeah. Yeah. So almost like it's not as bad to do it as it is bad to be involved in another side of it. And even then, again, to a point that we're unaware of. So it's hard to even...
Particularly when they... particularly when in the New Jack episode, they did so much to make New Jack look good.
Yeah, they
Like
did.
he came off, New Jack came off very sympathetic and like, damn, you're like, okay, well, shit, okay.
Yeah, you're like, well, New Jack maybe stabbed people, but he was also on cocaine the whole time. So, like, whose fault is it really? So, yeah, definitely a little. It's an interesting series. I think I like the conversations that it kind of, and some of the interviews that it gets that other people don't get. But there are definitely points where I think that we got to be careful then to call this thing gospel.
And I'm happy to see wrestling in any capacity come to more to the public eye because that just gets more interest in it. You know, if I can get like a family member to watch this because it's a cool true crime thing, then great. Maybe that'll lead them to look at other things because there's a lot of fantastic content on the network in so many areas that is similar to this, and it gives a neat perspective. It's a fascinating. If you don't like the performance, it's a fascinating business. If you don't like that, it's a really interesting comedy show. There's so many layers to it. There's so many different ways to be a fan of wrestling.
Yeah, and I think that as much as people talk about, hey, people get too involved in the negative on things, I don't feel like there's a lot of wrestling shows that are honestly that negative that are being put out by any of these companies. And I do think that with as much as we had all those like behind the story VH1 and behind the artist on E and MTV and all those things where it talked about the dark side of rock and roll from time to time, I think it's also a little silly to neglect the idea that there was a dark side of wrestling too. You can still celebrate it and still say, yeah, it was fucked up back in the day. Dork Chop brings up a good point that Blow is the biggest heel in wrestling. Definitely was for decades.
Soma. Somas.
Yeah, Somas were bad. I think that was the generation after Blow. I think it went Blow, Somas, and then now it's CrossFit. Let's see. The other thing I wanted to bring up before we get into the shows was there's 2 more layoffs that happened. And Kevlar, we really didn't get your opinion last week on all of the layoffs going off. What did you think about those? And the last 2 were Cain Velasquez is said to be released, and Gerald Briscoe is said to be furloughed.
It's weird that Cain Velasquez is released, considering he really was never in it. So
that's probably why.
I mean, not shocking.
I think it was probably that he had more training to do before they could get him on TV. That it was more like, we did a cool spot. I think that my understanding is he was training a lot in Orlando lately, and I think it was to get him a good long time training so you can come in with a background story already. Oh, you came in, you thought you were big shit, you lost to Brock, it's a year later, now you're back kind of a deal. But at this point, if you're training to lead towards something, you're not sure how you're supposed to get there. I mean, do we even know if Brock's willing to come back for right now? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I know the rumor was that he always needed knee surgery. So that he came in and did that spot, and then he left to, have knee surgery.
Well, and with both of them, if it's rehabbing or if it's rehabbing it and surgery, and maybe they wanted to come back, theoretically, that performance center is not a place where they should be able to work out because it's a closed set, but that part of it kind of qualifies like a gym, so he probably can't do it. And in that case, it's kind of like, what are we paying you for? So I can get it I can totally get that. And also with all of these, it doesn't mean that these people can't come back when things change up.
Yeah.
They could easily reopen that wound, that world with Cain Velasquez.
Yeah, and it also frees him up to maybe go learn more somewhere else too.
My kind of weirdness with that is that it took this much longer for that to occur.
Yeah.
And it might be due to like contracts and length and stuff like that. And maybe his was up at a point where maybe if they waited a few weeks, they could do something different and negotiate it better. There's better legality to it for them. But it felt weird to announce these tenured people and then, Cain Velasquez too, because he's one that I almost feel like it would make sense to come out earlier. Like, yeah, we're going to release Cain Velasquez for now,
Well, I mean, this one right now I don't believe has been confirmed by the company. And also, the rumor behind it too is that they are unaware of if it took place at the same time as all those ones anyways. Like they're not sure when he got let go.
I'm just wondering if it's, hey, let's release him later so that people talk about WWE, like a PR move almost.
I guess I could see that. I think that more likely that there were certain people they just didn't want to talk about letting go, and I feel like he was probably one of them. And suddenly, word got out. Someone was like, "Oh yeah, no, Cain Velasquez definitely doesn't have a contract anymore," and it's like, "Oh what?" So I have a feeling that list that we got, that was some 20-something long, is not the entirety of their let goes. I feel like there's more people we just don't know about, people we haven't seen in a long time, So, what do you think about them doing all those let goes, Kevlar? A lot of people were saying they thought the company was evil for doing it.
I mean, it's just like any other company going through this crap right now that, if you have to let people go, you have to let people go. It's weird to me, some of the people that they let go.
Yeah.
Like Rusev, but at the same time, Rusev, we haven't seen him for a while. And he was in that weird spat with Bobby Lashley and then disappeared again.
Yeah.
And he's voiced being unhappy a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that when Lana re-signed, I think that, remember we kept wondering, well, when's Rusev going to re-sign? I would be hard-pressed to think that their contracts did not line up together at all. So I wonder if when she re-signed, he was like, I'm still going to think about it. I mean, we just honestly don't know, right? But I have a feeling that some of the people they let go were people who had no intention to re-sign or were trying to play the hard negotiation game. And they just said, yeah, we just don't have time for that now. We just don't have the ability to play that right now. And so I wonder if some of those people were like, yep, we're going to go ahead and just release you from the last end here of your contract. And, we're not going to be doing negotiating, and we'll just go on with who we got,
Yeah. Well, and a perfect example of that is just the Revival. I mean, they've been talked about for, 3-4 years, it almost feels like, that they're going to ask for their release and they're going to go to AEW and blah, blah, blah. And, then no, they're happy here. And, so.
Yeah. Did either of you see those pictures? They had the drawings of the Revival that were supposedly Vince's idea for the Revival moving forward.
Yeah, I don't know what to think about that, because I also saw somebody released a similar one that they did of Braun Strowman. It was kind of like a similar concept sketch. Part of me gets like the idea that if you're frustrated already and they're throwing this out to you, wanting to leave the seat, but then part of me also at times feels we've seen people get thrown into really dumbass gimmicks and get them over, you know what I mean? Or try, or at the very least, if it's not getting over and they're putting all their ass into it, they figure out something else for them, Like Glenn Jacobs, for instance, Luke Gallows to an extent. If you put everything into it, it seems that they do their best to help you out,
Yeah, I don't think they're trying to mess with them. Real quick in the chat, Dork Chop saying company.
Let's see.
Woo!
We're live. We're back. Back in business. That was awesome, right?
Woo!
So I might need to just build a new computer. So that was cool. It was exciting. A little bit of the chat going on in the chat, I suppose.
I tried to keep everyone entertained.
Yeah. It was about the Revival's new gimmick thing. And Dorkchop says that they don't think that anyone besides WWE Creative could come up with something that bad. I think this. I think, and I mentioned it in there, I think the Revival put that out there because the source that it came from was such a bullshit little Twitter account that was like, look, got these. They were physically printed out at their fucking house. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see... If it was WWE, they wouldn't do a printout, take a picture of it, and then email it forward. You know what I mean? I just don't understand a company that would do that at all. Why would you have concept art that gets printed out? I'm still not seeing us.
Yeah.
Are you guys seeing us?
It says
Yeah.
we're live, but
I can't see anything.
On the stream, I'm seeing this. We're looking good.
Okay.
Yeah?
I'm going to reload it then. You might need to quit it on the other thing and pop it back open.
I can agree with that. Is that I think it's weird. And like I said, I could see it coming many ways. I could see something that silly definitely coming out and coming from WWE. We've seen silly shit come out before, and it gets a pop for a little bit. WWE came up with Simon Dean, Isaac Yankem, all these different things that are really weird and silly, and they try. You don't know what's gonna get over, and some of the silliest dumb things get over, like 3 power positivity preachers that became the New Day. Yeah.
Yeah, they were a preacher gimmick at first.
Yeah, it's just weird. Though I could also see it being them frustrated, whether it's legitimate or not. I don't know. I think we've seen for a while and just heard on and on and on the amount of stuff about them being frustrated and wanting to leave, and they're gone now. We can see what they want to do, and that's fine.
Yeah, and I think that was on them too, because the leak happened, and then they had a T-shirt of it, and then someone tweeted at them saying, "Is this real?" And their response was like, "I plead the fifth." But now they got T-shirts with it on there, because their whole gimmick is shitting on WWE moving forward. If they're going to AEW, that's what it's going to be. And I mean, that's Brody Lee's gimmick, that's Jericho's gimmick. Matt Hardy hasn't done it yet, but I have a feeling we're going to get there. But I mean, that's their gimmicks. Hey, I'm going to shit on where I used to be. You know what? That's bad creative, or whatever Jericho said. Like,
can I throw something to you that kind of a counterpoint to that I noticed this week? They've been showing the Jeff Hardy coming back moments and stuff.
Oh, they cut out Matt Hardy.
They cut it. Not only that, they cut badly.
Yeah.
Like they had weird cuts. And then they did show him a little bit, and I thought it was unnecessary, because part of me is this. If you're going to be bigger, be bigger. If you're going to be the bigger person this, be the bigger person this. He is a big part of your history. Does this mean when we talk about TLC, we're going to just say, Jeff Hardy was a huge part of it? Just talk about the Hardy Boys. That's fine. And from what we've, I haven't seen too much of Matt shitting on WWE. I've heard him talking about his creative issues, and I can get that. That's more valid than some of the stuff we've heard, But don't knock him. Don't knock each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that it's definitely different to bring up another company and saying they're creative as shit and making stuff to mock them versus just saying we're not going to televise you on our TV. I think there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, when you look at the Luke Harper, he was in the replay of the John Cena Bray match. He was there. Mm-hmm. But when they're doing a highlight of the career of Jeff Hardy, yeah, it's super entwined with Matt Hardy. But, I mean, the argument could be made it could draw away from Jeff Hardy if you have Matt Hardy present. Because then everyone's going to be talking about, oh, look, they put Matt Hardy in their show. Look at Matt Hardy was on AEW and WWE. You know what I mean? Like, by cutting him out, which it honestly took me a minute to notice. Our producer was watching, and she's like, do they keep cutting Matt Hardy out of stuff? And I was all like, I guess. And as we watched it, like, yeah, you'd see the side of his head. You'd see Jeff Hardy, like, standing right in front of him and moving. Like, it was all, like, cleverly cut, but it could also be to, like I said, minimize the conversation about anything other than Jeff.
To an extent, but I mean, to me, it was such an apparent thing so rapidly, it kind of made me aware of it. It made me overthink it. Like, okay, I want to, again, it feels weird, especially if you go to the network, you can watch it and he's in it.
Yeah, they didn't cut him out. He doesn't not exist, but he's not the point of the story.
Yeah, well, to me, what made that bad is they showed the entrance, and obviously they're both coming out and stuff like that. But then they're like, oh, they won the titles, and Matt was the one that brought the titles down.
Yeah, that's what I said too.
Yeah. You never really see the titles, and then all of a sudden Jeff has it, and it's like, well, that sucks.
Yeah, they just show like Jeff Hardy doing a big move, and then you see the crowd losing their shit over nothing, and then it cuts back, and there's Jeff Hardy holding up one of the belts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Dork Chop.
Yeah, Dork Chop says it would be hilarious if they go back into the network and actually rotoscope them out so you can watch guys take moves from a ghost. But that would just solidify his gimmick that he's Damascus and he's 3,000 years old and can teleport. It's just going to make his gimmick more true.
Hell yeah.
If he just became an actual ghost.
They could do the thing that they wanted to do to Christian and just blew out over his fucking face.
What? When were they doing that?
So no, Pritchard podcast. He talked about like there's rumored as an idea that Vince really hated how Christian looked.
Oh.
So he wanted to put a blue dot over his face.
That's
just
funny.
blue dot over Matt Hardy's face and all.
Yeah,
all
just a
the
blue dot
face.
the whole time.
Yeah. It'll make the Matt Hardy version 1.0 entrance way weirder.
Oh yeah, hell yeah. But then he'd just start wearing a blue mask on AEW, and everyone say it's genius.
We're gonna start this. Okay, let's go to AEW. Eric, defend this shit.
We could. We can knock out real quick. I don't know what image that is, but that's awesome. But I do think that revival thing, I don't think that's legitimate at all. There's nothing about it that screamed like actual to me. The other thing, too, is that everyone's talking about how this is an idea that Vince was pitching. Vince doesn't pitch ideas. Not that I could think. I can't imagine he goes in there and says, hey, Revival, would you like to do this thing? It's either this is what you're doing or you're not on TV. I don't understand it as he's pitching an idea to Revival to see if they approve it. So I think I would have felt like it had more legs if they were saying this is how Revival was meant to move forward, and not that this was the idea Vince was pitching and they refused or some shit. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it does feel like that statement does at best feel like an ego trip. At worst, feel like it lends credence to not being necessarily accurate.
Yeah, and I think that the Revival jumped on it so fast. Another thing is, I don't see them replying to everybody. So the fact that tweet went out and within seconds they went ahead and retweeted and answered it, it's kind of like, I don't know. It felt a lot more like a plant to me than anything else. And then they had a shirt out like a day later. So, yeah, I don't buy into it. Let's see. On NXT, there was only a few things I thought were like super noteworthy. Other than, it had good wrestling on it. All of that, but let's see. Killer Cross was... Oh, they did the Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae video. Did you see that, Clump? I meant to send it to you.
No, I didn't.
They made kind of like a movie-style promo with the two of them where it's like them having this nice dinner and then it would cut to black and white and be shaky and they're talking shit and then it would come back to being in color and they'd be talking nice again and... I don't know, it was a little artsy-fartsy for me. I wasn't feeling it, but a lot of people I know online did really like it, so... Yeah.
Artsy-fartsy.
It was. It came off a little bit like... A little Darby-ish.
That's what I was thinking.
But...
Better than Darby or Darby-ish?
I think it was better than Darby because it wasn't quite so angsty and teenagery. It just kind of came off a little artsy-fartsy of like, oh, let's do this. And then when they say a mean thing, it'll be black and white. And you're like, okay, this is a little too on the button for me. But it was neat to see something a little bit different and to see them a little bit out of place. And I do think all these hours of wrestling inside of an empty venue can get pretty tiring if you don't break it up with something. So I did appreciate that aspect of it for sure. The other thing I really wanted to at least talk about was Drake Maverick. So they led into the Drake Maverick versus Jake Atlas. Why did they do that? Make it hard to say. They led into that with the promo that he cut on Twitter with him crying and talking about how he's going to be in this match. And then it went from there
He lost.
Well, he ended up losing, but we're going to talk about this with Kev here in just a second. But they also showed him like on a bridge and talking about how important it was. And he kept talking about his 3 matches. Well, it turns out this tournament is a round-robin tournament. It's not a traditional tournament. So he gets 3 matches either way. Thing is I don't know what the fuck round-robin tournament means. And they didn't explain it either. All I know is that Drake Maverick lost and he's still in it. So I thought Kevlar might be able to shed a little light on what a round-robin tournament is.
Well, sports guy gets to know what gets to talk about it?
Yes, he does. Yes,
I played
yeah.
chess. In high school chess, it's round-robin tournaments only. Wow. But go ahead, sports guy.
Yeah, go ahead, sports guy, and shut the fuck up, Clump. You can't dye your hair like that and then become an expert in something.
It's his
It's
transformation.
fucking hair dyeing.
I was just gonna say I have no idea.
Really?
No, I'm just kidding. No,
Oh. Kev's like, I've also never heard of one. I thought it was a sandwich with bottomless fries.
I would break this chair with the sheer force of my happiness.
Yeah.
Yes!
But yeah, you just, it's round robin. They normally break it up into groups of 4, and then whoever's at the top of the group just goes into the tournament, right?
I think there are. Oh, I don't have the map up, but I think that sounds right. Groups of 4. So what do you mean by how do you get to the top? How can you lose a match and then still get to the top? Other people have to
What
lose.
you do is you have your 3 matches, and normally either the top guy in the group or the top 2 guys in the group go on, and then it forms the actual bracket, and then it's
Yes.
single eliminations and stuff like that afterwards.
It's kind of like college sports before they get to the March Madness. The goal of it is every team or every person performs against every other person, and those who have the highest number of points, the highest standings, go forward.
Well, the perfect example is the World Cup.
Yeah.
Because the World Cup breaks it down into I think it's 8 groups of 4 teams each, or I think it's more than that. But anyways, the top 2 teams go. They play each other. It's based off a point system. I think it's 2 points for a win, or 3 points for a win, 1 for a tie. Then they go to goal differential. I don't know, in wrestling, I think it's pretty much it has to go to win-loss, right?
Yeah, I think it's a win-loss thing because they're each getting 3 matches. Dorkchop says G1 is broken up that way too.
Yeah. It's points. You have the highest amount of points, you go forward and stuff like that until the final. G1 does it where it's 2 groups, so it's just the top people going to the final match.
Yeah.
You have all these people, and it's this person's got the top in here and there. And the other benefit of doing that is people can be in a spot where they may not get to the winning point in the map. They may not go that far, but they look fantastic. You can have people who surprise and look really cool and win against other lower card people, but may not be at the highest point of the card themselves, but it elevates them,
Yeah.
For instance, Carl Anderson, when he was in NJPW, one of the things that brought him way up the card was he got to the G1 final. And that was through him just kind of rising through and up, Or in sports, it's when you have a team in the World Cup that's the U.S. men's team, we're not expected to do shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We normally don't even make it.
Yeah, and then suddenly, oh crap, they beat Ecuador, which never is going to happen.
So it looks like there's 2 groups, Group A and Group B, and then I guess it is based off of the wins. Looks like we might be able to pop it up on above your guys' heads here in just a second, but it looks like. Yeah, so I guess the other people would have to lose, and then Drake would have to win a couple, and then. So if Group A and Group B are doing round robin, how does that build the bracket? Would that just go to a finals? Whoever wins that
Probably.
one. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, if there's only 2 groups, then yeah, it goes to a final, and that's it.
Now, the way that's building up, too, I mean, it does. Saying that this is a work, and we're all being work buddy, that does build more drama to it. It does build this idea of, you've already lost one, what can you do? Because the next ones are dire. But part of me feels like maybe it's too much drama, and then part of me feels like this is a really cool way to do this tournament, but God, you have to explain this more? Round-robin tournaments for wrestling, I could see them being really cool in a lot of ways. You can build up, in this way, a Royal Rumble or a King of the Ring match or tournament into a huge thing. But in doing it like they're doing it this way, you got to explain it first. Maybe this could be how they go forward with tournaments, which I'd be cool with.
Yeah, it would be interesting. I guess the only way you extend it, right? If you have your 3 matches on each of these, well, would you get an extra point for beating a guy who's got to win versus beating someone who doesn't? Or do you go to a tiebreaker?
I think you would just have to go to whoever has the most wins.
So theoretically, so let's say that Drake goes through with this. Dorkchop says that Drake Maverick work makes him feel a little gross about it. I'm really curious about it, though. It's got me super invested in Drake. If they were to theoretically be pushing Drake towards the finals, I feel like he'd have to win the next 2 matches, and everyone else would have to lose their next 2 matches. Mm-hmm. Tony Nese could maybe win one and lose one, but for Jake and Kushida to both be with a 1 win and Drake to have 1 loss, I feel like the best he can do is maybe, like, that's what I'm saying. Do you do like a tiebreaker in the Group A and Group B? It turns out the top 2 tie, and they go on to have a semifinals match, and the winner of that goes on to the final?
Well, normally what you would do is you take the top from Group A and the second place from Group B, and they'd face each other.
Oh.
And then the top from Group B and the second place from Group A, unless they just go to a straight fatal 4-way.
Oh. What are you doing?
Whoa.
The hell was that?
That was really loud, Clump.
Clump, what are you doing?
What?
Clump.
What are you doing?
Oh, is it just in my mic volume?
Jesus.
On what? That was the loudest machine gun you could have possibly set off. If you'd set off a bunch of firecrackers... Christ. Stop! Stop doing that.
Wow.
It's like morning radio, but we have gun sounds.
It's not. Dorkchop says you have it on old-timey crank, steam-powered mic. Let's see. Dorkchop also says he thought it was silly with the Gargano and Candice as heels who think they're as good as they're good is a good take. Yeah, I mean, I like the concept of where the characters are going. But, so yeah, I guess if you do Group A, like the B first spot and A second spot and cross it, then you can have a semifinals and then still have an underdog win even there too, getting to the finals, right? Because if, let's say number 2 is Drake and he gets to face number 1 in Group B, then he's still the underdog in there. And if he wins that, he can go on to the finals and just be underdog the whole way.
And then they give him a contract at the end anyway.
Yeah, I think that whole part's really weird and fascinating to me too. Like, I think that there's a possibility that his video he cut on Twitter after the firing got so much traction that I think that there's a possibility that they could have reconsidered.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that there's speculation that potentially his getting fired was a work and the other ones were legit, which if that's true is really weird and uncomfortable.
Wow.
There's a lot to this that isn't. There's a lot of options to this that don't feel great. Like, if it's a real firing, then they shouldn't have put him in there at all.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Anything happening here, if he loses this and he's gone, okay, then you almost can't ever bring him back.
No.
Or you bring him back so far out that it doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
I don't think that he loses it and then he can never come back. I think also this is a guy like Drake. You say what?
So what if he wins it?
That's what I think. Yeah, if he wins it, then I think that's an interesting story too. But I think that there's a guy like Drake and the incredible love of the business he has. I also wonder if this is how he wants to go out. If he's got 3 matches, he wants people to care. And he doesn't want to just disappear one day when he can do something that will make people care and talk about his exit from the company. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't be surprised if this was largely his idea. Saying, guys, let's do this. Let's make people care. Let's make people tune in. Because no one else in that whole bracket's doing that. No one else in there. You got Jake Atlas, Kushida, Tony Nese, Drake Maverick, Akira Tozawa, El Hiyo, which El Hiyo, I believe, is the guy who is doing the luchador face masks online. And then Jack Gallagher and Isaiah Swerve Scott. None of them have any kind of presence on social media that's garnering any attention to this tournament. And Drake Maverick is driving that. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's what he wanted to do.
What did you just call El Hijo de Fantasma?
El Hijo. That's what I said.
You said Io. Like, it sounded weirder when you said it. Like, you said
Hio.
El Hijo, and I was like,
Hio, maybe.
Equal.
Hi, Joe.
Equal.
Um,
IJO. Equal.
Dorkchop says if he wins and keeps his job, it was all a work and a story built around this event, then it's still bad. But I think that there's a possibility that there's a third option. That potentially he was let go and was able to garner so much attention on this tournament, which no one else was effectively able to do, and agreed to come back under a lower contract. You know what I mean? Because if you guys got a cut, he's the type of dude, from what I can tell on all the stories I've heard about him, even from before this, that he just loves this business, and being a part of that company is all he's ever wanted. I think there's a third option here where he's literally earned a spot back on the roster, and potentially for less money than he was making before. Potentially. You know what I mean? So I would love to know the truth of it all in like 6 months' time. You know what I mean? How did it all play out? And maybe we find out before then. Maybe he wins the whole thing and then he ends up on After the Bell right after, and maybe Corey's like, dude, how did this happen? You know? I was surprised, if you guys haven't listened to After the Bell, the interview with Triple H was all about effectively how WrestleMania ended up in an empty arena and how the company was handling all that stuff as it came up. And it sounded like they were preparing for the empty arena concept almost a week before the actual first empty arena match. That they already knew stuff was happening, and that they actually literally redirected trucks that were heading to a town and said, get back to the performance center. And a lot of things just kind of lined up. I would say listen to that, because there's some really good stories in there and a lot of content in there that you wouldn't think that they would talk about, especially this close to WrestleMania. But I guess my real hope then is that, I mean, I guess personally I want Drake Maverick to win it. And if he does win it, I want him to be on After the Bell, and I want him to talk about how it played out, because although he could always flat out lie and say that he earned his spot back, I don't know. There's just a part of me that thinks that there's a potential for that being more true to life than the idea of him pretending to fire someone and him cutting that promo. Because I think he could have cut a promo that mattered anyways. Like, let's say they didn't fire him. He could have cut a very similar promo about, all my friends just lost their job, and this tournament means everything to me now because I don't want to lose mine, and I need to prove my worth. You know what I mean? Because I feel like I have value and the company hasn't let me go yet. I want to show my value. He could have cut a very, very similar promo, sad about everyone else's loss. So I don't think that it's the only explanation if he wins is that it was all fake.
The other thing I could see here, and we don't know how long this will go, and how there's a lot of questions around this that we're just in a weird spot.
Yeah.
If this extends, looking at that bracket, I see a lot of people I could see being released.
Yeah.
And I question why some of these people weren't really, you know what I mean? Like, not in a bad way. Like, I'm not saying y'all should be fired, but you get what I mean? Like, it feels weird. And my almost worry is like, well, he wins it then what? Because this division doesn't seem like a division at times that they invest a lot in, you know? And at that point, I understand what you mean is like, I'm a person who cares enough that I'm coming back for a lower contract. That, to me, almost still feeds into the idea of, or the narrative of, like, the company being evil. There's a lot of questions right now about certain things that went on around the releases we saw, and I'm not going to, like, throw it in there, but there's questions about money from people associated with the company going to certain things. A lot of money. And that narrative is around this. So it just, I don't know if there's a good third option. I don't know if there's any option here that makes this sound good other than maybe having just not put him in there, or you get what I mean? Like, cancel the tournament even until later. And I know that we need content, but I almost worry about, like, what if these are pre-tapes and then this ends and we find out then, like, in 2 months, because, say, we're still at a spot where we're not doing shows in venues, they release the entire cruiserweight division. You get what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's still a possibility. I mean, obviously NXT is the lowest side of their of their pay scale. So I don't know that you start with cuts there. I feel like that's probably part of the reason why a lot of NXT stayed, is because so much of NXT is on a lower pay scale than other people, that you almost get more bang for your buck there. You know what I mean? Although I agree, Iho has never showed up on NXT TV except for this tournament, so it wouldn't have been like a surprise if he was cut and you'd never seen him. But throwing someone like Drake in there, but not Leo Rush, because Leo Rush was asking why he wasn't in the tournament when they first announced it. So, I don't know. Dork Chop says that he admits does it best work with their back up against the wall and having to ad-lib, but still thinks using the current real-life situation of people losing their jobs due to the pandemic in a TV wrestling story is just exploitive and is not a fan. I don't know. Everyone else is talking about it. They're not allowed to, I guess. I think it's a weird spot for them to be in either way. I don't think WWE can do something at this moment that people are not going to say that's exploitive and terrible. I really just don't. There's nothing they're doing that people don't say like they're in the wrong for doing it. I think they're just in a spot of trying to continue to make stuff for people who are willing to watch, and acknowledges that it's like a lose-lose.
They've always kind of been like the historic evil. Like, whether it's deserved it or not, that I think they lie in the middle. There's things that they do, and that there's things that they do that I surely disagree with, or things outside of it that, for certain political things, I don't think should be as closely tied to them are, and I think they leave a stink under people. They leave a bad taste in people's mouths.
Yeah.
And they're the victim of poor timing, and sometimes where it's like, really, you're doing this? Like right now, there's so many eyes on them for XFL going out.
Yeah.
For the donations to that super PAC right around the same time, and all that happened within a week of these releases. And so before all this, anytime Vince did something or the WWE did something, and I just said Vince, but we always, like as a collective society, wrestling is WWE and WWE is Vince, so Vince is the negative.
Yeah.
And it's an easy target. And I kind of think right now maybe a quieter, calmer approach would be better, because it's hard to not do something that's going to get eyes, but some things I think they could have done better.
Well, yeah, I think that a lot of this is going to be a hindsight judgment call. Like, I think it's really tough because none of us have run a company in this situation, including them. So I don't know if any of us know what the right decision is. I don't know if any of us has any idea what's the way to go, and is this right or wrong, other than how do you personally feel about it. I don't know that it's going to be anything other than hindsight to get a good look at how did it play out. I do think the other option for Drake is if they did call him and say, hey, we got to let you go, I think there's a possibility also that he begged to stay on the roster. Let me just be in the tournament. It's only 3 matches. I'll make people care. I want to go out in a retirement style match. You know what I mean? Like the same way that a lot of the greats get their retirement match, they put their career on the line. This could easily be him going, cool, I'm out, I get it, and I can maybe come back down the line. But if this truly is my last shot, let me have these 3 matches, because someone has to go there and lose anyways. Why can't it be me? And I'll make people care when I lose. And maybe this is his big farewell, that he's able to put on an amazing performance, because even as a wrestler, he hasn't been able to showcase on any of the shows just truly how great he is. That this could be his chance to say, let me have these 3, let me tell this story, and then that's it. We'll wash our hands of it,
And that's actually a good point. This being an end could be good, because he's a 19-year veteran.
Yeah. Dork Chop says it's a good point. Lose-lose situation. Can't really fault Drake for trying to shoot his way back into a work either. Just don't like it. But hey, they're talking about cruiserweight division for once, so yay. And that's what I mean. Like, no one else is bringing that kind of attention. And I think that if this is really Drake's last 3 matches for the WWE for the foreseeable future, then maybe this is a great way for him to have some form of closure and some sort of knowing that I was able to put forth at the very end a compelling storyline with great performances and showcase my talents both in promo and in the ring and almost retire on top. And like you said, he's 19 years in. Maybe he wants to retire anyways. Maybe this is his cruiserweight swan song. And if that is, like I agree with Dork, you can't really fault him for wanting that. And like I said, everything I've heard about him, I just think that there's a really good chance that that's what he would have wanted. Ooh, he just loves the business so much. Apart from that, as far as NXT goes, there wasn't a bunch else on there I thought was super pertinent. The rest of the tournament was fine. Let me see. Ciampa, Io, and Charlotte had little promos, which I don't really care about. What's this? Oh, El Hijo.
They had promos together?
No, they had little promos about each other. Oh, and Dexter Lumis came out and inserted himself into the main event in a weird way. It was all very uncomfortable. I don't like anything about Dexter Lumis. He's such an uncomfortable presence.
That's the guy that looks kind of like that I thought was a white supremacist in the NWA thing.
Well, yeah, and he's clearly got tattoos that have been covered up, and you look at him and you go, I don't want to ask why you had anything covered up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like I'm looking at it, it's like when your whole upper arm is like a black spot now.
Yeah.
What was that prior? Please tell me it was just something stupid as fuck.
Yeah, tell me it was a rose with a frog underneath it, and they both looked weird.
Yeah.
Butterfly.
Yeah.
It was Shaquille O'Neal tongue kissing Dennis Rodman.
It was
a
a rocket
very large
ship.
piece.
It was definitely a rocket ship. What do you guys think of AEW?
Steve-O.
What do you guys think of AEW?
I took some notes on it.
Good. Let's hear them.
Yeah, I want to get your perspective.
I haven't watched in months from the beginning.
Yeah.
Pretty much since the beginning, I should say.
If you're just tuning in, we rotate sometimes.
Yeah.
What's up?
She says if you're just tuning in, we do rotate what we watch depending on, and we'll talk about that right after this too. What did you think? This is the first time you've watched AEW since I believe the first month.
Yeah, I mean, it started off with that weird Cody promo talking about the TNT tournament, for the TNT belt, which I'm not digging at all. I don't know what the hell that is all about.
Yeah.
But I'm liking that they're showing the records. Like Sammy Guevara was the first one out. He was 4-4, and he's riding a three win streak. So I was like, all right, so he was 1-4 before. That's not very good, But I'm liking that concept more. But then if he's in this tournament for this belt, it's like that record really doesn't prove that he deserves even a spot in it. Yeah. Outside of being a good talent and being a part of, the inner circle.
Yeah.
I do think it's really interesting how often they want to say literally verbatim on the show, in this company wins and losses matter, but how little they show or prove that wins and losses matter.
Yeah.
They do very little to actually say, because of this win-loss record, that means this person gets this.
This guy was earned his spot or whatever.
Exactly. And I would say apart from the World Championship, which seems for them to lead towards this person's ranked number one on apart from the champion, so they get a title shot. But if you look at their wins and losses, it's a little confusing how they're ranked number one when they'll have more losses than wins, and the person below them has like more wins than losses, but it's a different number. Or like Moxley jumped to the top of that thing with like a 2-0 record or something like that. And you're like, well, he's had like 2 matches and he's number one contender. And then you had people down there that were like 4-2, and they were not up there. They're like, oh yeah, you've lost too many. And you're like, but he's got.
I See, I think it's not strictly on record, or else you'd have to go with everyone fights everyone, and then do some kind of seeding that way. Because I think the records are more like, the records are more like in like UFC.
Yeah.
Where sure he has 4 wins compared to 2 losses, but who has he beaten, and did he lose to? If he loses to some jobber, then it's like, all right, that negates your 4 wins.
Yeah.
I think that might be part of how they do this in a sense, is they, use the records, but then it's like, well, who has he beaten and who's he lost to? And Sammy Guevara's been in some matches with some bigger players in that company. But like, they also kind of need to say that, like, there's a lot of things that AEW do that frustrate me in that they're not said. And I think that, I can suspend my disbelief a lot with this, but I feel like when I come here and talk to you guys, or if I'm watching this and thinking about, like, how would Kevin March like this, I always think of that part. I'm like, well, if you just said this sentence, or if you just made this rule, this shit would make a lot more sense. Like, if you just said, hey, we do tornado tag rules.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Or if you said, our refs operate under discretion and they're not as strict. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, we have less rules, more guidelines.
Yeah.
Okay.
With this, if they said, like, it's, well, Sammy Guevara may have it come up like, well, this person's got a better record than this person. However, if you look at it, Brody Lee is undefeated, but he's only beat new people and people without contracts, whereas Sammy, he's lost, but his losses are to John Moxley and this person, he's beaten this person.
Yeah.
And then it could be like, well, Shane Carwin has significantly less wins when he got to the world title, the heavyweight title picture in UFC, but it's because he fucking beat these people,
Yeah.
Well, and I think they almost need it, because, I saw the stats there, and, I was really paying attention to them, and they threw one little tidbit, like I said, with Guevara, where, he's 4-4, and he has a 3-win streak. I think they need to almost do like WWE and have a few bullet points on the side. Notable wins. He beat this person, tough losses or bad losses. If he puts on there, he's lost to Moxley and Cody and stuff like that, then that's fine. That's understandable, but, they really don't drive that point home as much as they should.
Yeah. Dorkchop's even saying that it seems to be more about streaks than records, and hot streaks matter in AEW. Noting that Mox is currently 14-2-1. I didn't think Moxley had any loss at all, but I guess I just don't know. But he says that he's 9-0 this year. So, but I think even as the champion, I don't think your win-loss record matters as the champion so much. I think it's about getting to the championship picture. Let's see. AEW doesn't forgive you for not watching every week, and long-term booking is a double-edged sword, which I agree to also, because I always think that it's really interesting that you can watch the show without knowing the record and say, well, I know who they're going to say's got the best record. You know what I mean? Because you can watch it and see one promo and go, okay, that's who's going to go for the title next because that's their story. And then they're going to do what it takes to give that person the win-loss record to justify it, or just put them up there justifiably saying that they're number one. Like Emi Sakura comes to mind, where she had more title shots than anyone else, but also had a 0-6 record. But she had like several title shots at first. Like she had 2 title shots, I think, with a 0-win record, and she was somehow number one contender. And so it's also like, well, everyone else has a worse record. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, she had one of the worst records, and she was getting title shots. So I think that there also is a point where you have to say that it's okay to want to see a match because of story.
Well, and then also throwing out the idea of, like, if you give some exposition to this, if somebody goes out and, like, have more explanations, like, I'm challenging you, and have something there where, like, have these little on-camera moments while I'm challenging you, and those lead to feuds, and feuds lead to that, in a sense. It may not be as close to UFC, but you'll have these booked matches where where, like, DC wants to fight Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
It ain't going to be for a title or anything like that. But if the champ's saying, I want to fight you, or if someone says, yeah, I want to fight you, and that happens, and then say somebody pulls one over on DC, and I mean Daniel Cormier, and he then goes back into UFC, he's going to have a pretty big, box to stand on whoever he fights next. Like, yeah, I beat your champ.
Yeah.
So have those moments to help build people up. Well, I want to fight this person. I get to choose who I fight. I want to fight them because we had a record in Japan. Have that be a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I do think they also flip-flop a little bit with Omega being a singles champion in AAA. Like, they mentioned it. He even brought it out like a week, and then he defended it a week, and then he doesn't have it again. And it's a little weird to, like, have someone show up with the title, not lose it, and not show up with the title. Even if it's not yours. Like, I'd rather they just not bring it up. But, I mean, there's little weird things like that. But I do think that, like, yeah, their win-loss record matter business isn't explained well enough for me to buy into it. Dorkchop even says everyone in the women's division has been number one contender at some point. And I think it's also regardless of maybe they're settling more into it at this point, but when they first started, everyone had the same record. So losing to the Young Bucks didn't mean anything because they also were 0-0. But they also wanted to say that losing to the Young Bucks was huge because the Young Bucks were like the number one contender for the title and the expected winners. And they have a tough time talking themselves through it. And I agree where they don't really forgive you if you don't watch every week. When you tune in, they're not going to help you catch up.
It does feel weird, too, to have Kenny not bring out that AAA title every week and then bring out the tag title, and then you kind of be like, well, where the fuck's the other tag team champion?
Exactly. That's what I thought, too. I was like, man, I almost wish I wouldn't see it right now, because all I keep thinking about is where's Paige?
Yeah.
But, Kevlar, to go back to what you were talking about, what did you think of the Sammy Guevara match?
Yes.
I thought it was a really good match. I like both of them a lot. I've liked them before, they caught my eye. And, I thought it was a really good match.
I think that's the first we've heard Kevin say he liked the match there.
No, he's liked a few of the matches that we've had.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me see. I do think this about the TNT title. So it wasn't a secret because they mentioned it that TNT asked them to make a title named after them. So they did. The only thing that really chaps my ass about it is I was there at the Double or Nothing conference where the Young Bucks were asked point blank, are you guys going to have a mid-tier division championship? And they said no. They said, we're not going to be the kind of company that has a title for everyone to go for. We're going to have the big ones that matter, and we're not going to just shoehorn in a bunch of titles to make people happy because we're not going to be that kind of company. I wish the Young Bucks would just stop talking because they say all these things with definitiveness when they don't know what they're talking about. That's what bothers me about it, is the Young Bucks talk out their ass so much, and we constantly see more and more things happen where they have to go back and be like, well, yeah, things change. And you're like, just stop talking.
Yeah. There is something to be said about things changing and stuff, but maybe that's a thing that, like, an ad take is, at this point, this is how I feel, however that may change.
Yeah.
Don't answer with as much definitiveness. Also, it kind of felt like they said that, and then TNT was like, hold up.
Yeah. Yeah, TNT's all like, oh, I guess you didn't know how you get on TV when you said that.
And AAA was like, what about these tag titles and this title?
Yeah. Yeah, so it just makes you wonder. But that's the only thing that chaps my ass about it. It was like, well, that's weird. The Young Bucks had their head up their ass again. But other than that, I like the idea of that title. I think that there should be a secondary title.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I just don't like that its name is literally the TNT title.
Yeah, and it's because TNT asked for it. So they just named it after them.
I want that to come out with Shaq. Like, just have Shaq gas, wobble out.
Shaq, he wants
I
Shaq.
think they should.
I thought you said shat.
Oh.
No.
I think they should have named it the Turner. The Turner Championship or something.
It's not Turner anymore.
Yeah, it's not Turner. Yeah. But it could be in homage to Turner. I think even if you called it like a Dusty Championship or something, or the American Dream title or some shit, like you could have done something cool and clever with it. Although a lot of people brought up, just like Dorkchop did, that TNT and Dynamite go together, it's still like a stick of explosive. So, I mean, I get that too.
Oh shit! I didn't think about that.
You didn't think about that?
No.
That didn't come up.
At no point have I thought about that. Fuck that. Wait, let me just tell my wife that.
Oh
TNT is the network that has AEW Dynamite on, and like TNT and Dynamite are the same thing.
Oh, this is good.
She just went, huh? Like,
Oh my god. She goes, huh? How about that?
I married well.
Yeah. She goes, who could have thought? Dorkchop says he wishes they just don't have the TNT logo all huge on it. If it looks good, if it looks as good as their other belts, we're
TNT
good.
logo.
I think it should have a big Nitro logo in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
Okay,
think
my whole thing is there, from what I saw is that they made the TNT belt to pay an homage to what TNT's done to wrestling throughout the year, blah, blah, blah. And that's what I was saying, naming it the Turner title, probably would have been better than the TNT, but
yeah.
whatever.
Well, yeah, because Turner's also the reason why they got rid of it. Well, I guess to a degree, someone else bought, like, whoever took over after Turner's the one who got rid of it, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When Turner was bought out and it became owned by Time Warner, they dropped wrestling because it wasn't earning money. It was his passion project.
How cool would it be if it was the AOL title?
Ding.
Yeah.
Little running guy on it.
Yeah.
But that's the thing that pisses me off too, is because they mentioned Time Warner in this little homage.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, TNT and Time Warner has done so much, blah blah blah, and whatever.
Yeah. I did think though I was expecting an AEW Dark title before I was expecting a TV title, especially because the roster is so shallow. They just have so few people who perform every week that everyone's in the world title picture. So by putting together this one, it commands the idea of needing a mid card when you are severely lacking in much of a mid card outside of jobbers. The jobbers are the only ones who come off as mid carders, and even them, they can take Kenny Omega to task. So I thought they were going to do an AEW Dark title first.
Yeah. Do you think they named it the TNT title to be the TV title and have it look like the old TV title?
Is it just the old TV title?
That'd be good.
Yeah, but with the TNT logo on it.
Let's see.
Did you guys
Dorkchop
just etch out
says.
WCW?
Let's see. Having a TV title can be defended on Dynamite, and by proxy make the world title more valuable and make it more rarely defended is a good thing. I don't think the world title needs to be defended less at this point. It's hardly defended as it is. So I think they've done a good job of protecting it in that way as far as valuable goes and defending it goes. They've really kept that apart. Let's see. Who knows if they ever move to another provider. Yeah. Imagine they're no longer on TNT. They have this TNT title. Let's see. Zack Ryder brings the Internet Championship that gets defended on Dark on YouTube. That could be cool. But can you imagine walking around? Because that title's got his own face on it. Can you imagine like people walking around with it?
That'd be hilarious.
Yeah.
But I was also going to wonder, because one of the very first things I noticed as well was, obviously AEW is not social distancing at all.
No.
Everyone's touching each other, the crowd, and to me, I've read so many articles that WWE's gotten so much flack for social distancing that, oh, they had this many people, this, blah, blah, blah. But I have never heard anything about AEW.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Well,
where are they right now?
Georgia.
Nope. Florida.
They're going back to Florida, but they've been filming in Georgia. All those ones are in Georgia.
God damn. Well, and I think we touched on this, like, you weren't on it when we talked about this a little bit, Kevin. But that when we talked about that before, I threw out what I had said a little bit ago. AEW, because they're not the Xerox of wrestling, because they're not the fucking AstroTurf of this, they don't get flack for it. Like, if we found out the artificial turf caused like cancer. Who do you think the articles are going to reference? You get what I mean? It's going to be AstroTurf. They're not going to go into like all these other companies that also make artificial turf. It's going to be AstroTurf, and that's the thing with wrestling is WWE, except for the small group of superfans like us who know that there's NJPW and All Japan and Ring of Honor and AEW and AAA and CMLL. So unfortunately, you know, and it really sucks because they're the other one who has such a national presence, and they really should get some flack if you're going to throw it to WWE. But they don't. You know, when it comes down to it, really nobody should get flack. They're trying. They're both doing close-ups. They're doing the best they can. Either we give it to everyone and we deem that this is non-essential and we close their ability to film, or we give both of them a little bit of leeway because they're doing enough, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and they're working within the rules.
Yeah, but it just goes back to everyone praising AEW for this, you know, for this or that. Whereas if it was in WWE, everyone would be like, hey, this is shit. And I think it's just because it's AEW. Once again, they're just getting a pass almost.
Yeah. I do think it's going to be interesting seeing now that Georgia's opened up entirely and Florida's deemed that national television TV shows are essential to their economy. So there are no restrictions on AEW filming in Florida or Georgia right now. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do because supposedly they've been playing pre-taped stuff that's been in the can. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next week or two where they're allowed to film and project live to see what they do. Dork Chop even says most people still call it the WWF. Like, they don't even keep up with wrestling enough, except for wrestling fans, unless something bad happens. Which I think is also a good point and crazy, too. When I hear people say WWF, I almost stop talking to them already. I'm like, we're not going to have this conversation because you haven't paid attention in 20 years. More of your lifetime, it's been WWE than it has been WWF. So you're not cool by saying it's WWF. You just sound like you don't watch or care or respect it. So yeah, I usually tune out as soon as they say WWF. Oh, WWF's doing this. Oh, are they? Sounds good. Like,
tell me more about the World Wildlife Fund.
Yeah.
They having pandas fight? Cool.
Yeah. How are the pandas doing nowadays?
Yeah.
No, it is fair. Nobody should get a pass here, you know, or everyone should get a pass.
Yeah.
And that's my view of it. It's like we had GR Lunar in a few weeks ago, former friend of the show. He jumped in and he was like, "This isn't essential," and that's fair. That's a fair point. But it should be designated as such for everyone. You can't give passes, and I feel that the unfortunate thing is you have the people outside of wrestling who only know one thing, and then you have this group of really kind of rabid marks for one brand attacking as well, who are like, well, it's just because WWE shit. And, you know, really, if you take his WWE shit, everyone's shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I that was an observation we had made too, is that they're so far away from the concept of social distancing in there, that they're even, you missed an episode where Sammy and Sean Spears were taking money out of their crotch and handing it to each other, and they would pick it up off the mat and stuff it in each other's pants again. And you're like, what part of this? Yeah, and then at one point, Penelope Ford took off her shoe and started hitting someone with it, and they're bumping into everybody on the sidelines, and yeah, they're not doing much to try and give the illusion. Like, I think it's safe to assume that probably WWE's got less social distancing than we see on TV, but at least they're providing me that illusion. I don't think AEW is doing anything to provide that illusion.
No, it goes to the Orange Cassidy Havoc match, where Havoc's over there biting his hand.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I was like, bro, like, this should be a forbidden move right now.
Yeah.
Well, and then it also goes to, you know, and you weren't here for this either, Kevin, a lot of other media gets passes too. And we don't know that, you know, whether they're pre-taped and we don't know how back they're pre-taped, and we see so many things on so many other, you know, shows where they talk things or their panels, and we see these large groups of people. Well, if they're fairly timely, you know that they're not pre-taped back months, and it's like you got a crew here, dude, and the crew that constitutes some people there. And for some of these, like, you know, and I use the example of YouTube channels, like, we know you're in California and you have like a whole group of people in your house. Well, yeah, doesn't this technically count as like a production? You know, you might be doing it in a house and you might be saying it's your friends, but if you're filming this for content, making money off of it, doesn't this then count as a event, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I was even reading, I think last week, I forgot to bring it up, but there was an unnamed AEW star who hasn't been on TV quarantining themselves because they're expected to go back out filming, because I believe the belief is that they're going to go live again. So
Jake was quarantined for a while.
Jake? Yeah, Jake was quarantining himself there too, but he's been kind of on this pre-tape stuff. So, I mean, I just don't know. But I do think, I agree, and I think it's interesting the amount that it doesn't matter what AEW does versus what WWE does. It's that AEW does it all right, and WWE's evil, because that's the narrative that's the most popular.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What do you think of Matt Hardy's promo video, Kev?
It was good. I mean, I liked it. It was weird how it was like aimed at Jericho and then at Sammy, and it didn't make much sense because, you know, probably because I haven't been watching it, but, you know, it just seems like, you know, broken Matt Hardy.
Yeah, I don't know, like, when he flipped over to regular Matt Hardy, I was kind of torn because it didn't make any sense to me because they didn't have much of an explanation for it. So am I supposed to believe he's got like a multiple personality disorder, or is he schizophrenic? But I did think the promo that normal Matt Hardy cut, I thought was better and more believable than all of his broken Matt Hardy stuff. And I really liked the bit with it when it was just him in a leather jacket and his hair pulled back, where the stuff before it, I was just kind of like, it just sounds like a kid playing theater. It's not making me emotionally connected to hear broken Matt Hardy say the things he does. I don't get connected to that. I just go, oh, okay, so Matt Hardy's going to have a fight with Jericho.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know why I'm supposed to believe in both of them, or if I'm even supposed to believe in both of them, but I like the second one more. And I just wonder if they're going with like some sort of schizophrenic angle with him, or if it's like inadvertent. Dorkchop even says this was the first time they've shown normal Matt on TV, so he's not sure what's even going on with that, or where that's going. So yeah, I wasn't sure either because they didn't flip into it, and I know that the comparisons are constantly with Bray Wyatt and the Fiend, and I feel like that there's more of an explanation of how we get from Bray Wyatt to the Fiend, even though you never quite see it. The fact that they talk, like that Bray will talk about the Fiend and talk about how it's like kind of his inner demon, or even how Finn talks about his demon, I think provides a reason for there to be a flip. Even if you don't have to see the transition, you can understand why there's a change. Where I don't think that Matt Hardy's done much to explain why he can flip back and forth effectively.
Well, and it was the first week of it. I mean, let's give it time. Let's see what...
That's why it was alarming. Did Kev just...
Damn it.
He said be right back.
Yeah. Oh, is he going to come back as the Fiend?
Oh, he's back.
Has he got a Fiend mask on?
Wait. No, he's not back.
Man,
Oh.
No,
I was just about to ask him about... I want to ask him about what he thought about Jericho on commentary.
Okay, we're just happy
Oh, yeah.
to have Kevlar.
Because
Yeah.
if it's his first time watching it, if it's positive, I'm like, well, wait till you watch next week, because it's the same shit.
Oh, yeah, you're going to hear the jokes again. What did you think of Jericho on commentary?
Dude, it's getting harder and harder. Because it is the same fucking jokes. It's the same thing. It's hokey as fuck. And it's so repetitive.
The weird bit to me is
I like Matt Hardy, and I like Broken Matt Hardy, but there are other things in this I fucking hate it, and it's more the repetition of it.
And there's this weirdness where all the references that Jericho was making were super dated.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he didn't talk about anything that was even 20 years old. everything he talked about was like 30, 40, 50 years old. And I think it kind of, I mean, for one, it dates him. It makes him sound older when he's supposed to be this cool Le Champion. And I think it potentially would confuse their audience, right? Their audience is not very old.
Well, I have one theory, and this is going to sound weird. When we've talked about, like, so when Shane was the biggest heel, and I fucking hated it.
Yeah.
You said, well, it's a work. He's working you. You're supposed to.
Yeah.
Is it maybe that he's working us, and this is all it is? But I also just want to say I hate the shit out of it, period, even if it is that. You know what I mean? And I feel like if they threw it out, it would be because this is a response.
Well, no, I don't think... I didn't feel like he was trying to be booed. I thought he was trying to get laughs. Good.
Yeah.
Kevlar, what did you think of Jericho on commentary?
It was weird. I liked it at first, but he just flip-flopped a lot.
Yeah, he wasn't very consistent as far as like the stance he took. What do you think of his jokes and all of his references?
They were okay. Some of them, you know, like I said, he just flip-flopped a lot, like talking about sunglasses and, you know, with Orange Cassidy, this is why you don't do it. And then 5 minutes later, he's like, you know, oh, look at, what's his name, jumping in the ring, looking like Indiana Jones and stuff.
Yeah.
So, what if we told you that what Jericho did on commentary happens every fucking week?
Really?
Yeah, same jokes.
The first week when we did this, I was like, yeah, I liked it. It's actually really cool. Then the second week, I was like, oh, fuck, really? It's the same shit, and now it's worse than Corey Graves. It's
Oh, really?
it's okay. I'm sitting there like, okay, at what point is he going to call him Skiavone?
Yeah, he always talks about not knowing someone's name, and then he'll call Tony Schiavone, as it's this great joke where he doesn't know his name, but he knows the other. Like, it's absolutely stupid.
Get their name right, Skiavone.
Yeah.
Okay. I know how to spell. I'm the best at the Skiavone. Stop it. Stop. It comes off like, and for Tony Schiavone, bless him, it makes sense for him to be like an old man making dad jokes.
Yeah.
What Jericho's supposed to be presenting as, this shit isn't working.
I did really like, I think it was last week, where Jericho said, I tried to buy a Tony Schiavone shirt, but they don't make them. And then Tony responded with, go to, what was it? LewisRules.com.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like noise happening.
Kevin, are you blending a drink?
Am I what?
Is there like a washing machine going on right now?
No, there's a fan.
Oh. And you took off your headphone, I imagine?
I took off my Bluetooth and went for a headphone.
That's all right. No, you sound better than you did on the Bluetooth, but it's just picking up all this extra noise. But I don't want you to be burning up. I'll turn it down a little bit. We got to get you one of those like fans that doesn't have the propeller in it.
Oh,
The blades?
Yeah, the blades, the bladeless fans. My dad's got one.
Yeah.
We got to get you one of those.
Costco.
Because now you're going to just start sweating. You're going to be looking like Bobby Lashley over there. It's going to be rough, man.
Or just like me.
I'll get a headband on.
Yeah.
You just look like me in a 70-degree room.
Yeah. We got to get you. I think I have a Bray Wyatt gym headband. I'll get that over to you as soon as possible.
Nice. Well, I have an Asos one on my desk.
I just don't want you dying in there, man.
I'm good.
But you do sound a lot better, a lot more clear than you did before. So whatever headphone you're using now is my favorite.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, so it was like go to LoisRules.com for your Tony Schiavone shirt. And I thought that was funny because that's where you get all the ones for his podcast. And it was just, I liked Schiavone's quip back on that one. But yeah, for the most part, we hear the same jokes. Dorkchop says he'd like to hear Jericho, Excalibur, and Taz together. I think that's a lot of color, right? Like, well, I don't know. I think Taz makes a better play-by-play than Excalibur in every way. So Taz and Jericho could be all right, but I don't know. I feel like Taz is so marking out for everyone there that I think I could get tired of that pretty quick. You know what I mean? He's not very much of a straight man.
Anymore.
Yeah, not anymore. He doesn't come off as like anything other than pining for the talent.
I thought you meant he came out.
What do you mean?
Get it? Straight man.
Oh, yeah.
2020 jokes. Boom.
Yeah. Let's see. After that, on AEW was... let's see, Kenny Omega versus Alan Angels. What do you guys think about that one?
That's a good segue.
A lot of people were talking about that.
I thought it was good. I mean, I think this is the first time I've seen Kenny Omega not lose.
Mm.
So.
And he had a hard time.
Yeah, a little bit for a guy that's 0-1 or 0-2.
It was weird. Yeah, it felt like. I think Kenny is like the person who needs squash matches here.
Yeah.
And I feel like he did a lot to put this guy over, and I was like, that's cool and all, but I kind of need you to make someone look like shit.
Yeah,
if you're going to have your Titantron say best bout machine.
Yeah, he didn't come off as super strong, and it's not like that there's nothing to shining up the opponent so it looks good when you kind of come back, but there's also a point where you're considered the best in the world. Here's a guy who's 0-1. And on commentary, Chris Jericho said, this is what we refer to as a warm-up match because this should be an easy win for Kenny, and it keeps him in the ring. And then he had a really tough time.
Also, Jericho on commentary.
And then Jericho says at the end of it, because I hate all their smart mark remarks. Like the fact that in the win, when Omega won, he says the right person won. As though he were like critiquing the booking.
Yes. The other thing too with Jericho on commentary that's so fucking weird to me. When he plays this weird like dancing middle of the road thing.
Yeah.
And he's supposed to be their biggest heel, but then he's like, well, and we had fantastic matches, he's amazing. But God, he's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Like, just be a dick. Just hate the fuck out of him. Just treat him like shit, belittle him. It's so weird to play into the middle, but it comes to, Jericho's always tried to connect with the smarkiest people, and it's like, just be an asshole.
Yeah.
Be an asshole. You're fine being an asshole. You're paid to be an asshole. You're an asshole. Be that. Quit being this.
Yeah, you don't need to be fair on commentary. Did you guys see that article that came out where the Young Bucks said that Jericho was their Hulk Hogan?
We can see that, and boy, does it come up like that in backstage politics.
Yeah, it sure does seem that way. But they were trying to say it all positive, like it was so funny when you read it. Like, oh yeah, he's our Hulk Hogan. He's got so much experience, and he's so good, and we just always trust everything that he says. And you're just all like, that was the problem with Hogan.
I wouldn't say that when you have a wrestling network going against WWE, especially on TNT.
Yeah, exactly.
Overtrap was asking
Yep.
how you guys liked
Wait, what? How we liked what?
Taz breaking down Kenny's match.
I don't see that. Oh,
The
there it is.
Taz technique.
The Taz technique, where Taz breaks down Kenny's moveset. They've been doing that more and more. They did it with Hager as well. What do you guys think of Taz technique?
I thought it was kind of cool, but I just didn't like the clips that they were using. Like, because I wrote it down that they said he was doing a move against Trent, and it was the Snapdragon.
Yeah.
And they were like breaking it down, and Trent's already in position before Omega like slides his hands up.
Oh yeah.
And it was like, why are you using that clip?
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Yeah. The overt cooperation. They all do the John Madden circle over Trent. Like, as you can see here, he's being a great partner. Kenny comes in and slides his arms right in place. Like,
Taz technique number 1: make sure you have a partner that gets in position for you.
Yeah.
Taz technique number 2:
this is why it's important to go over a match before you go in there. You don't want guys not knowing where to be.
Taz's Royal Rumble tips. I just remember that from when I was a kid, and it was him being like, "Hi."
Yeah.
Just, like the same shit. Like I'd be okay with him going into it too much, but
Yeah. So, I mean, they may have used bad clips, but I like the idea of it. Like him breaking down the moves and stuff. Because he used to do that on his podcast, and it was cool. Because he would talk about people's, like, suplexes and having a good bridge and why that was important in, like, actual fighting and stuff. I think it's interesting the moves that they're choosing. But I do think I like the concept of it. It's something new we haven't seen.
Well, can I throw something? I see Dork Chop in chat going, a lot of New Japan is like that, and his style definitely fits better over there. And I agree. Kenny, if you watch his New Japan stuff, is amazing. I feel like what's happened here, I don't know if it's a camera thing or a timing thing, because when I watch New Japan, I really love that their cameras are pretty steady.
Yeah.
I don't know if maybe it's that we have a weird camera issue here, but it does come into timing. It does feel like in certain things they show, it's like a timing thing. Or if you're analyzing it like this, like a sports thing, you unveil that mask too much. And it's weird because it's off when somebody jumps into your moves. I don't know if maybe in that spot because I saw that too. Show someone else, show some of their moments. Show some of the things that Kenny and Pac did, because Kenny and Pac together were fucking goddamn amazing. And yes, I agree. NJPW's cinematography in their matches is amazing. And it's simple, but it's done in such a way that it really hides things and showcases the performers way better, Do
you think it's because they're so steady that it's easier to say, hey, here's your marks?
Yes.
Is that really above and beyond, though, or more of oversimplifying it? I mean, maybe it's more functional. Because I wonder if because I was thinking that, hey, TNT's cameramen were supposedly the guys who were doing the best, wrestling videography for years, right? I do remember as a kid, and Kevlar, you'll remember this, talking about matches when we were going back and forth, and we were fighting with kayfabe, and it was WWF and ECW and WCW, and I remember specifically telling you, my problem with WCW is you can see the guys don't hit each other, so it's fake. And with WWF, I was like, those guys are hitting each other, and you can tell. But it was just the camera angle was different. And so I wonder, so I was thinking this whole time, I was like, oh, they picked up the same old dudes who couldn't do it before. I wonder if part of it is not that the guys don't know, because my understanding is a lot of them went to WWF for a while, or WWE. I wonder if...
You don't know shit.
Yeah, I wonder if the problem isn't that the guys aren't being filmed well, so much as none of these guys know how to work with this style of videography. So the guys are messing up because the camera's not where they wish it was.
Well, I think the thing with New Japan that makes it so unique is it is, in some ways, a simplification, but they also do have their cut-ins. They do have moments where they have different cameramen. They have cameramen around the ring, but they use it differently, and it's like they do a less is more technique. It's like when you watch certain movies and they have very long single cut sequences, and it's very weird and jarring because you might be used to, a movie or a director who uses a lot of cuts, like Michael Bay, where he cuts continuously. Best example I can give you is like Edgar Wright from Hot Fuzz. He does a lot of big shots, and it's neat there. And I wonder if that's something that we're here, and we're seeing the weaknesses of, And the other thing that Dork Chop throws up that I agree is talent pool that NJPW had around Kenny Omega was fantastic. And I'm not knocking a lot of people here, but especially when Kenny got really big, the matches that you saw were Kenny versus literally the best people probably in wrestling at the time, and up there forever. Like Kazuchika Okada, I can't fucking say his first name, probably will go down as one of the greats ever for wrestling. And it gets understated a lot. Same with Naito and, other people that Kenny worked with. They're fantastic performers. You took two people to dance, and you could see that because I know one of the first NJPW matches you saw was Kenny and Jericho. And to me, that was maybe the weakest match on that Wrestle Kingdom card.
So was there...
That match sucked.
Is there maybe an argument to be made that maybe Kenny is not a great ring general in that regards? He can perform well with someone who can call the match for him if they can call a better match, but he's not able to hold up a match on his own?
No, because there are other matches that he has done really well with. Matches and segments with other people. Yeah, he's done good. I think there's a lot of things I wonder. One is is this too much of a balance towards silly, but he did do silly there, but not as much. Is it that maybe he doesn't give himself or trust in himself to be that ring general? So maybe you're right. It's a lot. I think Kenny called most of the matches. And I don't know. I don't know what the difference is here. It feels like a combination of factors to me. The things that I find personally really frustrating are the camera work, and I feel like at times he is maybe a bit too silly.
Mm-hmm.
We're not seeing that mixture of it all. He doesn't feel as compelling to me. I do feel he's incredibly creative, and I feel like maybe, I don't know, it doesn't strike a chord with me here as much, and I want it to. Kenny is, he's my favorite performer. I don't want him to. I feel like, I don't know. I want to see more Kenny in different ways, and I feel like maybe he's of the elite, the weakest person to be represented in AEW at this point.
Yeah, and there's a couple guys in a few chats that I'm in where their favorite wrestler is Kenny Omega, and they have a very similar sentiment of they don't like the way he's being presented in AEW, and they say all of his best work was in Japan. I don't know if it's easy for me to think that someone could be as great as they're projected to be on that level, but be performing poorly in AEW as an EVP if they really had it all. You know what I mean? Like, it does feel like that perhaps in Japan he was very well protected and well taken care of, to where you didn't notice if something was bad, or there was so many other people who were able to pick up the slack around him that he came off as the greatest. And I mean, saying you think that he called most of his matches is based off of what? Has he said he's called all of his matches? Has other people in Interesting says, yeah, Kenny's great to work with, he calls great matches? Like, I mean, is it based off of assumption or something there? Like, I just don't know. And I just wonder if AEW is exposing him more than highlighting him.
No, there are. I'm now thinking more of other matches, like where besides Okada, Ishii, Elgin, his entire run when he went for the North American title, Juice looked fantastic. He had a lot of great work with a lot of very talent. It's just, I think I'm also a victim of, those matches that are further back are harder for me to remember. But then I think, unfortunately, the stuff that most people in North America will remember him for are Okada, and then, which is fantastic, but also Jericho. And the Jericho match was a really cool match if you've not seen anything else he did. But to me, it was not the best match he did in that run. Yeah, that's true. Kenny and Hangman has been good. Kenny and Hangman in NJPW when they would tag with the Bucks was always really good.
Yeah. I mean, I understand why people liked that match. I don't think I've liked almost any tag matches in AEW, just because, like you said, they don't do anything to explain any of their lack of rules, and actually being a local ref makes me really pay attention to the rules, and so I have a hard time making sense of what the fuck is going on. Or trying to figure out why they've booked the match in such a way where they have to break a bunch of rules when they could just book the match under any other circumstances and make the whole match make sense. So I just don't enjoy tag team wrestling in AEW. Clump does, which is fine. It's all good.
What?
You like the tag team wrestling in AEW, yeah?
Sometimes. I mean, I like the tag team wrestlers that have come in. I feel like I do agree with you. I feel like more of an explanation there, and then there have been times that I feel like they push one note of what each team does. Like I've struggled with synchronized offense versus tandem offense.
Yes.
Like the idea of, there's a point where it gets silly. And yes, I love indie silliness at times, but I don't like it when it's on your pay-per-view, and I don't like it when it's a lot of the match. Like I can be okay when it's a one-off thing where you have two people across the ring doing something together and it looks really cool, yeah, but I get really annoyed when it's every match where it becomes very apparent that it's the opponents helping each other have these moments. And, I'd rather not see that.
Yeah, it's too much for me there. To me, it looks like it's like watching a video game, and I'm less interested in watching people dance and do a video game style thing than I am in watching what looks like a bout. Yeah, I mean,
it is fair to say you're a little bit biased because you have your different focuses. We all do.
Yeah, for sure. I'm 100% biased towards it because I feel that one of the things that have brought me into being compelled by wrestling is watching the stories and the emotions unfold within the rules, or why doesn't someone just do this because it's illegal, or breaking a rule results in something else happening. Like, to me, that stuff is more compelling than just, here's a bunch of things I can physically do. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm 100% biased towards the idea of telling a story within the confines of the rules and it making sense, where a lot of people do really enjoy the idea of watching a live-action video game or a fight scene or something choreographed like The Matrix. So, I mean, I get it. That's exciting and cool to watch in a regard, but it's not why I turn on wrestling. And so I'm just less interested in matches that become that, as well.
Yeah, and even me to an extent. Like there's a level of silliness I'll like, but there's a point where it gets a bit far. And at times that has been like I love AEW and I still watch it and I'm still excited and I like the creativity, so I tip over to liking it a lot.
Yeah.
But there are times when I do struggle a little bit with things becoming a bit too silly for me, and I'm not talking about like literal comedy, but like these moments where I question, well, why not create a restriction so that when you do this, it's more impactful and you do it less often?
Yeah.
It feels like having cake and eating it too. What I loved about Eddie Guerrero was Eddie Guerrero would cheat, but we knew it was cheating. And
yeah, that's what made it funny.
It feels like, yeah. Here it's cheating, but it's like, well, we're not establishing anything there, so is it really fucking cheating?
Yeah, that's just true too. When someone cheats to do something and they try to put that over as like, oh my god, they cheated. You're like, okay, but someone else did that earlier and it wasn't cheating. You know what I mean? Like they're just. I think that's the important part of the rules is for a character. Eddie Guerrero couldn't exist in AEW because lie, cheat, and steal and to win and all that stuff wouldn't have worked because he would do stuff that other people would do that no one called. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I think that's what makes those kinds of characters funny or cool. Let's see.
And I agree with Dork Chop there. Yes, they don't establish what that discretion means well.
Yeah, they need to establish that we don't have rules for a reason. Like I keep bringing up Evolve. They established in the first 2 minutes of their show on the network that they don't do countouts. We will not have countouts here. So when someone goes on the outside, they don't get a 10 count. They just have to get back in the ring. Okay, cool. Now all the matches that go outside of the ring and no one's counting, I'm not confused by it. I'm going, oh shit, how are they going to get back in the ring? So if, like you said, if they just establish more and more that, hey, we don't have rules here, we got guidelines, the refs aren't really here to enforce things, they're here to keep people safe. Okay, well then I'm not going to be concerned on why a ref just lets everything go. But they don't do that, and then they want to do it when it's convenient for their story. Oh, what if we did this and the ref gets all mad because you're not supposed to do it? Well, you haven't established that that's not supposed to happen in any other match.
Well,
so
that is true. Is when you do that, like when you have discretion with it, you have to create these moments where it really is impactful. When Red Shoes, the famous NJPW ref, gets involved, you can't have it be where in your first pay-per-view it occurs randomly. You have to just have it mean something and happen. And if that means we see refs not doing things, cool. It might frustrate some people, but then we can establish what this means.
Yeah.
So that when it happens, it happens,
Exactly.
And yeah, they do look all like pushovers and they look inconsistent because it's weird to have then a ref stoppage here, but why didn't it happen earlier?
Yeah, and I would argue that Aubrey is just as much a pushover as everyone else, she's just utilized in more storylines where the wrestlers want the ref to force something to happen or not happen, and she's utilized to do that because she's loud and super exaggerative in her movements. So you're led to believe she issues a command when really she doesn't. If you really watch her matches, if she's not told to be involved, she's not doing anything. You just have more memories of her getting in people's faces because those were the spots they needed a ref spot and asked Aubrey to do it. She's not any less susceptible than the others. She's just, for one, probably prettier to people, so they look at her. And for two, she gets all the spots where a ref has to get involved. That's all. Other refs aren't getting it. I think the idea that she gets a shirt and gets chanted, I think is a disgrace to their talent. They talk about how over Aubrey is kind of like, cool, that's how bad your talent is. Your refs are more popular than most of your talent. And it's maybe not a knock on the talent, but your booking and your writing. There's no instance where you should say the ref is more popular than anyone on the card. It's one thing to say a ref is popular, but they shouldn't be more popular.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Robinson said that in his interview, that one of the things he would like is to not be as noticed.
Yeah, he says that one of the things that he feels he does horribly is he is too expressive in the ring and reacts too much. And he goes, I get noticed too much in the ring and I wish I was noticed less.
His hair bleached fucking blonde.
It's bleach blonde. And he looks like the Nature Boy. So, yeah. We heard he did an interview with Sean Mooney that was really good. And in there he talks about, do's and don'ts and stuff. And that was one of his was like, he would encourage people to not perform the way he has because he thinks that it's not the most conducive to what actually makes a great ref. And I think that, I think the AEW refs can learn from that. But also, yeah, I do think that they all come off as pushovers. She just gets the spots where you think that she's got command. Hey, for the first time, Kevlar, you saw Brody Lee. What'd you think?
I mean, it was good to see him. I've always liked him, but
What'd you think of his video?
With the football player?
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's a weird way to bring this guy in, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Did you love it? Do you think he's been underutilized? You think he should be top card like everyone thought he should? Did WWE have it all wrong?
I don't know. I just don't. I need to see more of him to say if he should be top card or not.
Did you want to see more of that?
Card. Do what?
Did you want to see more of that?
Of his squash match?
The vignettes they've been doing.
Oh, I haven't listened to one.
I know, but a lot of them are very similar to that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's weird because to me it seems like they're taking they're establishing the cult more.
Yeah.
Because I never when I did watch AEW when they were first starting out, I never really liked the Dark Order and I never understood their whole thing. But then they had minions and clansmen or whatever and go out there and do their bidding, if you will.
Yeah.
And it just didn't make sense.
I think, based off of an interview I heard with Cody, I think Brody Lee coming in and taking on the Dark Order was not expected. And I think nothing we've seen with the Dark Order from the moment Brody Lee showed up was where they intended the Dark Order to go. So I think that all the things that we thought about how aimless and silly and stupid it all was, I think was actually true. And Brody Lee, for whatever reason, asked or volunteered or says they want to turn Dark Order around and use it. I get the impression Brody Lee was like, oh, I can do something cool with them. And here we are doing something different.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's cool yet, but it's definitely different. Who do you think that football player is?
I have no idea.
You don't know a Heisman trophy guy who got done the fuck up?
No.
All right, well, I thought you'd know.
Not off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But I did pause it on the article that they showed.
Yeah.
And I was looking to the right when they had the list of Heisman
yeah
players. And
Oh,
there was a couple players on there, and that just his name just doesn't ring out to me. So I don't know.
yeah. And I thought I saw something pop up that was all like this person joined the Dark Order. So I think they mentioned who it was.
Well, I wrote it down.
Oh,
They show his name.
well, no, you thought it
It's
was just.
Preston Vance.
It's who?
Preston Vance.
Preston Vance. Oh, I didn't catch
Yeah,
that.
that's whose name was on the article.
Oh,
Because I paused it and I was reading the article, and like I said, the name Preston Vance doesn't ring a bell to me.
yeah. I have no idea who that is. That's kind of crazy. If he was up for potentially a Heisman and you've never heard of him. I wonder if he was not as close to a Heisman as they were saying he was.
As they're making it out, yeah.
Yeah. Like a freshman who had like a good season. Like, oh,
Yeah.
he's slated to win.
He's got it.
Dork Chop calls it the K. Feisman Trophy winner. Like kayfabe.
Yeah.
Thinks they made a huge mistake by bringing him in when they did, but they wrote themselves into a corner. So now they're spinning their wheels on him until crowds come back and they really get back into their main stories. Maybe. I think this is what Brody wanted to do, but I don't know. It doesn't hit well with me. I'm not really into it. Every video he does, I just go, oh, it's this again.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure.
But like I said, this is the first one I've watched, so I'm a little intrigued by it because it's like, all right, they're, people that are down on their luck and almost, like the video that they showed, like dudes at home drinking, like almost felt like contemplating suicide or something, and
That's true.
like, I'm going to join the Dark Order.
That's true. This is the first real recruitment we've seen by the Dark Order, and a recruitment that had any kind of a backstory. We haven't seen too much of someone actually be recruited and take a mask who had a story at all. So that is true. That is something that made this one stand out and be a little more interesting than a lot of the other stuff. Most of the other videos on Brody have been him berating the Dark Order in one way or another, complaining about how someone dresses or how they sneeze or if they eat something before him, like petty shit like that.
To me, like I said, when I watched this, it almost reminded me of the Foot Clan. The Ninja Turtles.
Hell yeah, dude. We got smokes, we got bubble gum, we got half pipe.
Yeah. Like kids that have no future and like, hey, come join us, and
Yeah. We got video
that's what
games.
it kind of felt like.
Yeah, what do you want? Yeah, what do you smoke? Filtered or unfiltered?
Yeah.
Hell yeah, dude. And then AEW wrapped up after that with Kip Sabian versus Dustin Rhodes. Well, I don't know how I felt about them turning this into a Dustin saying that if he can't beat Kip, then he's retiring. I feel like that starts teetering on the edge of us talking about the end of Dustin's career when I don't think we're in a good place to do that right now. I think if you're going to even do that, you have a crowd there.
Well, see, I think, and like I said, I haven't watched in forever once again, but I think immediately just looking at the tournament and them saying that Cody's retiring Dustin in the finals.
Yeah, it could be good.
Like, I mean, that's what I got just like initially, like off the bat, this and that, because they start off AEW with, hey, Cody needs this, Cody needs this, Cody needs this, and then they switch to Dustin. He's going to retire if he doesn't win. And to me, it felt like it wasn't just that match. It was the whole thing.
Yeah, and you could see Cody, like, drop his head, like, fuck. Like, he didn't want to hear that. So I could see that, too, where they build towards the finals where Cody's, like, begging him, don't put your career on the line, dude. Don't put your career on the line. And Dustin being like, no fucking way, dude. It's now or never. It's all or none.
Yeah.
And then, Cody potentially retiring him, which...
Yeah, I see, like, a Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair, I love you.
Yeah. Yeah, and then sort of like how Double or Nothing went, but a little lesser than. Because I will say that after Double or Nothing, Dustin kept saying that he was fine with that being his last match. He would have liked that to be the end of his career because he goes, I won't do better than that. It's not gonna get better than that. That was just so perfect. And he goes, but Cody wants me to do this shit with him and Young Bucks, and he goes, now I got to do that. So it could be that the whole time he was trying to find his story to lead back to a retirement, but also knowing that Cody should be the one to retire him. That would make sense to bring it into a tournament and let that be the end of it, make the tournament mean a little bit more. It's not just a title, it's a career-changing title, you know?
Yeah.
Let's see. Dorchop says that, about Dark Order, breaking them down to build them back up because they were a failure. Yeah, I could see that. Let's see. Dustin retires at Double or Nothing, where he had his best match, in his opinion. Goes full-time teacher and backstage. Let's see. Blue Board, I really hope that no one ends up in the ICU. Hoping everything goes back to normal soon, but it's not looking great. But that other stuff, yeah. But yeah, I could see that happening with TNT. I just think that you don't retire Dustin without a crowd. Mm-hmm. And I think that if you put that pressure on the tournament, then you're really forcing the issue of potentially having to.
Mm-hmm. Unless he's okay with the crowd not being there.
He might be, but I don't know that everyone else should be. You know? Mm-hmm. Just because you're okay with it doesn't mean we are, man. We want to send you off. And I'll tell you, if next year they announce that Dustin Rhodes is putting his career on the line in a retirement match at Double or Nothing, I'm going to go. You know what I mean? Like, That's the kind of thing you want to be there for. That's the only match that I was bummed out I wasn't in the crowd for when I was watching that whole thing from just up the road. You know? But I didn't know it was going to be what it was going to be, and I guess you never do. But
yeah. And
I thought that it might be his last match, and if it was, I would have felt bad, but him continuing on, I was like, okay, well, I'll catch one down the line.
And then going to the match was, solid. The little stuff that they showed about, like, Brandy getting involved was just garbage.
I cannot stand that she's so involved in shit, dude.
Yeah. I mean, what was that? What's the other girl's name? Priscilla or Preston or something?
Penelope Ford?
What's that?
Penelope Ford, I think.
Yeah, that's it. That was close.
Yeah, right on it.
Like, yeah. I mean, she was, like, on the apron, like, doing stuff, and Brandy, like, I remember one, like, she's on the other side of the ring, goes around the turnbuckle, and just, like, starts yelling at her closer.
Yeah.
So, like, pushing her, anything like that, and then, and I think it just irked me the most because, she does her whole thing where she spears her and stuff like that. And then after the match, they sit there and they're showing the highlights. And that was the first highlight that they showed.
Yeah, interference.
Yeah. Her doing her spear, and it's like such a fucking waste of a highlight,
Yeah, there shouldn't be a highlight of a Dustin Rhodes match that involves Brandy Rhodes doing something to Penelope Ford.
Yeah. But
yeah, matter of fact, I see you doing a highlight of all of the stuff that happened in the match, and at the end being like potential turning point, or look what Brandy did and all that.
Yeah.
Dorchop says maybe he was just really showing shade on Kip, and he doesn't think he's going to retire when he loses to Archer. Is his next match against Archer?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that kind of complicates things. Lance Archer has to go pretty far in this, otherwise it's kind of a waste, all the shit they've done. Well, I mean, they've also wasted a ton of other shit on stuff like that.
Well, they're already in the semis, aren't they? Because there's only 8 people in it.
Yeah. So that means it's Lance and Cody, or Lance and Dustin, and then Cody and Darby.
Mm-hmm.
And Dorchop thinks it's going to be Lance and Cody in the finals. Which would also make sense. All those promos on Lance here to destroy Cody and shit and get in his way. Like, I could build that story some. But if Dustin tries to put his career on the line against Lance, that's going to be some bullshit. But, I don't know. Overall, what'd you think of AEW, Kev? You haven't watched it in months.
I mean, I liked it. And it took me a while to get... Because I was, some of their talent annoys me. I like a lot of their talent as well, but I couldn't put my finger on it. On the reason why I was like, all right, this is, a lot better than what I've seen in the past.
Yeah.
And it finally dawned on me the reason why I like it. And it was because it was in the Orange Cassidy match. And since they have the other, talent as the crowd, it feels like they're just a really good indie promotion in like a VFW where everyone's friends are cheering for them.
Yeah.
And, when Orange Cassidy was doing those, little slaps and everyone was reacting to them, I was like, oh, they're just the top indie show right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it felt like, and that's what it looked like, and, I think that's the reason why I enjoyed it, because it felt like, you're in a VFW.
Yeah.
A really great promotion in a VFW.
Yeah, it does feel a little bit like cheering on the little guy.
Mm-hmm.
When you kind of look at it through there, as opposed to when a lot of people watch it and try to watch it under the goggles of a WWE competition and a company that wants to put WWE out of business. I think it's different when you look at it and say, how is this versus the indies? And you go, oh, this is a cool group to support.
Mm-hmm.
Here's some cool guys doing some cool work and friends finally getting together to do something big.
Yeah.
Let's see. That's what Marsh said last week when you were gone. Oh yeah. That it was like the best indie promotion out there. I do want to know this before we talk about SmackDown and Raw. We'll probably kind of bunch those together because I feel like I feel like you don't got to go bit by bit on those ones to get an overall feel of both. But so both of you guys watched AEW and not NXT. I watched both. Just out of curiosity, because I think the conversation should be had, ratings are not great on any company, and the only company that's breaking 1 million is WWE on Mondays and Fridays most of the time. But I think even recently they had one that was like just under 1 million. We're in a weird time where everybody's home and people aren't watching. And right now, ratings on AEW and NXT are roughly 600,000, 700,000 week to week for both of them. They're not seeing a huge spike. With you guys being home more, and right now I know Kevlar's still working. I know his kids are home now. I know Clump has started training to go back to work. But what is it that...
Training failed, retraining.
Yeah, he failed training and has to redo it again. He kind of put a big old clump on him.
Already had.
It's been a thing, okay? It's been a process.
He's had quite an adventure when it comes to learning how to do the job you already have.
Times like this, I remember it took me 6 years to get a bachelor's degree.
That's a good point.
Fuck you, producer.
Yeah.
You're like Tommy Boy.
He's like Tommy Boy, yeah. Those people are called doctors. He's the kind of dude who like puts the money in the meter and then parks and he's run out of time and has to put money back in. He's just like, I'm really good at parallel parking, and he's just like Austin Powers.
Yeah, I got upset because I was like, no, I'm really good at parallel parking, so meh.
Yeah. But with all that in
Plus,
mind,
I have a New York attitude. Bumpers are for bumping.
Yeah. With all that in mind, and Kevlar, I know me and Clump talked about it a little bit this past week. You don't even get to watch Raw and SmackDown every week, but you don't have other shows that you used to watch on, like all the sports that you used to watch, the European kickball you used to enjoy, the American actual football that you would watch, things like that, which would sometimes get in the way of you watching wrestling. Those things are not a factor right now. What drives you to watch or not watch a wrestling program right now, and do you think that's a factor for other people?
I think some people, especially the ones that aren't working, they're probably just sick of their TV. Like a lot of times, And I know with like most of the time when it comes to watching wrestling and stuff like that, it's a lot. It's always, especially when it's live. What do the kids want to watch? Is there something we want to watch? We want to watch a movie or something like that. So.
That is true. I know a lot of people are making a lot of their nights in rather than watching normal TV into kind of an event.
That's true.
That's something we do. We'll do like kind of a big thing, and like we're gonna watch a Disney movie or something like that. I've fallen in love with this amazing show called The Masked Singer.
Oh, it's so good.
Yes.
God
It's so
damn it,
good.
I haven't, but I fucking know you'd go on it.
Yeah, right? So we just today finished season 2. We watched season 1 and season 2 now, and we're all caught up on season 3. But we just today finished season 2, and we were yelling and screaming about it.
Bret Michaels, could you believe it? Bret Michaels, the banana.
I couldn't believe he's that bad of a singer.
Oh, come on. You don't have to say which character in case someone hasn't watched.
Oh, yeah. Spoiler alert. The banana's Bret Michaels. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. See, my wife actually called that
Yeah,
a couple
she
weeks
did.
ago.
Yeah, I text your wife during the show because I keep going, well, who do you think it is? And she, like, nails it most of the time, and I'm like, bullshit. And then it's the same person. I was like, I'm not talking to you till next week. Bye.
Yeah, that damn it.
Yeah.
I also found, and this is going to sound so bad, so we found this app called Pluto TV, and I like it because it makes me think of when I used to watch, like, TV, like when I'd go to my parents' house and watch, like, Dish, but they have an entire channel of cops.
Oh, I've heard about that.
I fucking love cops.
I've heard about
So
that. There's some sort of live police station that's, like, all the time that people are watching a lot of right now.
Yeah. I'm like, if I see cops on TV or if I see live PD on, like, Alexis knows, wife knows, we're watching this. It is coming on. Yeah. We're watching this.
Yeah.
Cops is the best reality TV show out there.
Yeah, it's
Cops
pretty
is
good.
Fucking amazing. Watch. Producer over here, what's my favorite TV show? Cops.
Yeah. So I do think, I think there's a good point to that. With everyone's kids being home and people not having to abide by the same schedules they did before, Kevlar, do you let your kids stay up way later than you used to, or no?
No.
They go to bed around the same time?
No. I mean, they go to bed around the same time, but it's not like a hard, hey, go to bed, but at the same time, they don't stay up past an hour past their bedtime.
Yeah, so it's relatively, but it's not as hardly enforced.
Yeah.
Where before it was like, you have to go to bed because of school, and now it's kind of like, you guys should probably start getting ready for bed soon.
Well,
I got you.
I'm providing childcare, and, like, the kid I watch has to do homework.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is weird.
Yeah, homework's weird.
During the day, they're all doing homework and class meetings and stuff like that, and that's
which feels in itself. Yeah, which feels way shitty because for a period of time I was not doing anything, so I'd be watching this kid like on my Switch, like playing Animal Crossing, looking over at them doing like math, and be like, I feel real bad right now.
Yeah, you better figure that out, kid. I'm not stopping my video game. I'm not at a good save point.
Can you help me out? No, I'm playing Doom Eternal.
Yeah. So I wonder if that's part of it. I know that one of the wrestling chats I'm in, I'm a Patreon for the Not Sam podcast. And so we got a Discord channel in there, and one of the guys every Friday says, oh, you know what day, it's Friday, you know what that means? And he's like, I forgot to watch SmackDown again, because he's in the middle usually of watching a movie with the kids, which typically, since pandemic, that wasn't the case. The kids were in bed by SmackDown, and now it's, we're watching a movie, we're having dinner at this time, and they don't find it, like, it's not as ingrained into their schedule as it was before.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think one of the crazy things that I read or saw, that Netflix, a lot of people have been canceling their subscriptions.
Really?
And I don't know if it's just Netflix or all streaming services, but I think, like I said, I think a lot of people are just sick of their TV at some point. They've watched everything on Netflix, so there's nothing new, cancel it. And I just wonder, WWE's the same thing where they're there all day watching something. By the time it comes on, they're just like, I'm sick of watching TV. I'm going to do something else.
Yeah, and I do know there's some people who aren't even giving the empty arena thing a chance. Mm-hmm. There's definitely a sect out there that says, there's not an audience, I'm not watching. And I know that there was a couple weeks you were even in on that too, Kevlar. I remember that you were like, I don't know how I feel about watching it without an audience, and you eventually decided to check it out. But I think there's some people who are not deciding to check it out.
I think it was hard at first.
Yeah, it was hard. It was definitely an adjustment.
Immediate change was hard and different, and I think just like with any change, there's people don't like change, like immediate change like that, so they're just immediately against it instead of giving it a shot and watching it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, and it also has to be said too that in this we might see ratings continue to decline for another reason is, if you have people who are out of work and stuff, one of the first things that tends to go when you have big economic downturns is what would be considered luxuries. So cable TV, and
Any monthly
while
payment.
streaming services are seemingly like cheap, they do add up, and you might think, well, which ones of these do I need?
They definitely add up. And I think any monthly recharge is something that everyone sits down and looks at. Do we need Netflix?
Yes.
Do we watch HBO more than Netflix? Which one do we watch more? Which one's cheaper? Maybe Amazon Prime Video is cheaper than Netflix. We're just going to have to watch Amazon Prime for the next couple months. We got Netflix got to go. You know what I mean? Like, or how do you consolidate? Maybe they get rid of a few and then bring it into one. Like the Hulu Live stuff. You can add in HBO and Showtime for a couple bucks less than having them all individually. Maybe you start seeing like, hey, we'll get rid of Netflix, but we'll bring on HBO and into our Hulu, and you know what I mean? Like,
Well, and do family accounts get rated in a way where they're multiplying them, or are they considered like one? Like if like I roll in like, well, I got the family plan so I can have like up to 10 people watching this at once. Then my sister's like, well, I don't need to buy Netflix if I can be in your plan. I'm like, yeah, exactly. Does that show as somebody getting 10 subscriptions and then them losing one, or does that show like one person having one and one person dipping out? You get what I mean?
yeah, I think a family plan is different than the regular one. I think it shows as less. You know, we've lost a subscription. It's not that we've gained a family plan; it's that we've lost a subscription. I feel like. I mean, I guess I don't know their metrics, but
Yeah.
Dork Chop even says that Blue Lloyd's concerned about people in the medical field saying that there's no reason to open everything. Dork Chop says that Texas is opening in 3 days. Georgia's already open. And Dork Chop says that he thinks they just want to stop paying unemployment, and says that he has friends who said the empty arena shows just make them uncomfortable. And then says one day someone will bundle all the streaming services like cable. But I thought that was actually going to happen with Apple. They made that huge Apple TV announcement where Apple was revamping their entire Apple TV structure and Apple TV Plus, and I was like, if they could hub all of the streaming services for even $3 less a month by having all of them, I was like, that'd be a huge deal. I think there's a need for that, and I mean, I agree. There's just nothing of it, and I think all these.
Disney started that too with Hulu and ESPN Plus.
Yeah, Hulu's definitely started doing that. Matter of fact, the Hulu has kicked on so heavily they've started getting exclusive contracts. We had to get rid of Sling because they no longer had access to the channels they had even last week. All of a sudden, it said it doesn't apply.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's the thing that's unfortunately happening is until somebody reaches a deal where they can bundle more providers, you have providers pulling out. Like I was watching TV today, like as I was kind of watching the shows going on, like in background off to the side, I kept seeing like Peacock, which is NBC's evidently new streaming service that's coming out, HBO Max, this and that, and I'm like, there's gonna be a point to this where, like, people like if it diversifies out enough and somebody's like, hey, for $50 a month, I'll have most of these, yeah. And at what point will I just be like, this is cable again? Because really, it's just cable with on demand.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Because I was thinking the more services that are out there and stuff like that, it's almost getting to a point, if you want to watch everything, just going back to cable. And then we're back to square one.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too, looking at all the streaming services I have versus how much does it cost to have cable. And I'm really close. I'm close to where that price point might make sense to just get a cable box. I think the only thing that's
streaming services, monthly gaming things, because I think we still pay for one of our online console things and we don't utilize it.
Yeah.
And internet, I'm paying as much as if I had maximum internet with cable. I'm paying $90 a month for streaming services plus $120 for internet. It's fuck this.
Yeah, I think we've 100% gone full circle where initially the streaming services were nice because it was like, oh, I don't need to have a cable subscription that's $200 a month. I can just get these 2 channels I want for $20, And then now it's like, well, now they've all become exclusive. They all have their live versions. There's all this exclusive content and channels on each one. And if you want to watch everything, you have to dip into all of them. And it's like, okay, well, now it's, instead of being 120, now it's 119. Have I saved anything? You know?
Well, and then with a lot of their separate apps and stuff like that, all you need is a cable login. So if you have a cable login, you have that anyways.
Exactly. That's why I was starting to look at it, because right now with my Hulu Live, I'm able to log back into all the channels. But if I look at my Hulu Live subscription and my internet, there's a potential we could find a bundle with my provider that would potentially just be like, oh, I can log in under my cable provider now and I don't need any of it.
How about you text me and I might be able to help you out a little bit with that.
About what? Getting free cable?
No, I was...
This is good.
Yeah.
Say somebody has a family
Alright.
member that refuses to modernize and has an account with a large satellite provider.
Oh, that makes sense.
It was funny as hell. That was how like half my family had HBO.
Yeah.
And there was a period of time I couldn't watch Game of Thrones, and it was like, I can't watch it Sunday, I can't watch it Monday. And then by Wednesday, I was like, fuck this, and I changed the password. I nuclear optioned it, and then I had cousins that did not have my number suddenly having my number messaging me for an HBO can't log in. I was like, nah.
Yeah.
We're not doing this anymore.
No, and then a lot of them have started monitoring and IP monitoring,
Yeah.
and they're starting to lock
Yeah.
down how you can even share it with Hulu Live. There's a plan. The initial plan allows you for 2 devices in one household, so on one IP scheme, to stream at one time. If you want unlimited access in your own house, you got to pay the $15 for the one that allows you up to 3 different IPs to be shared for when you're quote traveling. So you can have but
that was a big turn with Hulu Live when I first started looking at it. Was, hey, if I'm traveling, I can't use it.
Yeah. If you're traveling, you couldn't use it, but now if you want to use it when you're not on your home primary IP, it allows you up to 3 non-primary IPs to run on mobile devices only. So if, let's say, I wanted to password share with a family member who uses their own Apple TV, if they logged in on their Apple TV, it would say, is this your new primary device? And it would either, if you said yes, it would change where it logged me out of mine and I could only use it on mobile, or you can only use it on a mobile device over there. So they're definitely locking down on it to curb that, which I think also makes it more expensive for everyone in the long run. And I think, again, we end up back to cable, which
Yeah.
kind of, bums me out, but here we go.
Full circle. Yep.
Gonna get to WWE.
Yeah, so SmackDown and Raw happened. Highlights on it. What did you guys think of the 25 years of Triple H?
That was a weird ass segment.
It was a goofy one.
Like, I was like, why is he like? I was watching it without audio, like in subtitles, as I was like, and I was just like, why is this just laughing and giggling and shit?
Yeah.
Like it didn't really feel like a send off. It felt kind of like a joke.
Yeah, it felt a little bit like a roast. I liked that. So he comes out to spit out his water, and a stagehand like snatches the water bottle out of his hand when they're wearing a mask.
Yeah.
I like that. I liked when Stephanie gets mad at Shawn Michaels and called him a lazy-eyed piece, and then like gets cut off. Yeah.
That weird ass scream from like Ric Flair's FaceTime.
Yeah.
Did Ric Flair murder someone?
Yeah, he
Is
murdered
that why it
someone.
cut out?
What'd you guys think of Vince coming out and doing his whole bit?
Vince got small. Did anyone notice he's getting like? I know he's older, but he looks way smaller. Like
He's 98 years old.
That's what happens.
at least
Yeah.
Start,
he looks like he needs to be plugged in.
start getting shorter. Your back to attention.
Yeah, I liked that they were bringing up Katie Vick. They talked about the gobbledygooker.
Yeah.
I liked that Vince McMahon defended Bailey. that was funny out of nowhere.
When I heard that, I immediately thought of you, and I was like, oh, he liked that a lot.
Yeah. He's all like, it's like the Bailey This Is Your Life segment. Just crickets. But that wasn't Bailey's fault, by the way. I was like, yes! Yes!
It was
You heard it here first.
It was such a weird goddamn thing, and it was like the most. I don't know, like it almost felt like it was like a moment where they're like, okay, Vince, come out, and we're gonna show everyone that you're not Vince. Like it was the most weirdly self-aware Vince is or will ever be. Like, ooh.
Yeah, but I think I think it also like really goes into the spot where like the way Bruce Pritchard talks about Vince. It came off very much like Bruce talks about him, where when someone shits on stuff, he kind of laughs about it and goes, "All right, on to the next." And I think it really showed that side of him too.
Yeah.
I think it tried to show like Vince more as like the father-in-law, not so much the boss type of thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it was, he called him Paul and stuff like that, and hey,
Paul Levesque.
too. And then Sean pops in and he's like, "I love you too, Sean."
Yeah.
And yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was weird because it kind of, especially when Vince came out, he like sidetracked a few times, like kind of like our show,
Yeah.
where he just like sidetracked and then kind of came back and sidetracked again. But I liked it, I just don't know if it was like a surprise to Triple H that Vince was coming out.
Yeah, I don't know about that either. I mean, I did like it in a certain respect because I thought that it was kind of neat to see them goof off a little bit. I do understand the critique of you've had a guy who's basically the top of your business for so long, and then you come out and highlight all of his failures like, oh yeah, why did I like him or think he was good to begin with? But I think that's overthinking it, to be honest. And I think that in an environment where, I mean, for one, the quote competition just winks at the camera the whole fucking show. I think it's okay from time to time for them to come out here and make fun of each other,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like it was kind of weird though to see like a random ass Benny Hill skit at the end of your show.
Yeah, it was a little weird, but I think they were just trying to have fun in a time that's like, I don't know. I mean, we even saw it with Triple H when he was on commentary. Look, things are going to be different and weird. How do we break that a little bit? How do we just get people to laugh, get a kick out of something, and do something we wouldn't otherwise be able to do? You know what I mean? When he says, take it home, Padre, like Dork Chop brought up, and he walked away, he's like, shut it down. Like, then the lights all go out, and I guess he's sending us home. Like, they couldn't have done that with an audience. Just had to go quiet and turned off all the lights. Like, what can we do that we couldn't otherwise do, and can we make it enjoyable to watch? And I think I got to respect them for at least taking that approach on it.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
It was something weird.
Maybe not, bring something that's completely enjoyable, but at least a distraction.
Yeah. Yeah, something to distract you, for sure.
Definitely got people online on social media going, oh, what the fuck was that? And if you just didn't like it, you just turned off. You wouldn't even talk about it. Or if you weren't interested.
Yeah, I think almost the win is just getting people to talk about it. And I think that's even from a deeper perspective of like, all news is good news or metrics is metrics. As long as you're tweeting. I think from the regard of everyone needs something to break up their time. If you get people that after your show went off the air, they're arguing online with each other for the next hour and a half and talking about it, you've broken up the monotony and you've given them something to talk about, and you've gotten people distracted from otherwise horrible things, Like, I think that seems like potentially a win.
Yeah. Well, and I think, their whole job is to help us escape reality for 2 or 3 hours, depending on the night.
Yeah.
And when you turn on the TV now, and that's probably why viewerships are down, it just reminds you that we're in this situation. We have an empty arena because of COVID and stuff like that. And I think, like you said, for them just to help us take our minds off of it for a little bit, I think is what, helped us enjoy that situation or that segment.
Yeah.
Is that, it took our mind, it was out of the norm. This whole thing, life has been flipped upside down. This whole thing's out of norm.
Yeah.
And it was just a different aspect of it. And,
Yeah. Dork Chop says Katie Vitt was brought up twice. Bailey was so happy on Twitter about that comment. Vince is letting himself get shit on a lot lately. He goes, look at the Vince puppet in the funhouse. And even the shirt they made where it's the Vince puppet says such good shit. Which, yeah, I think that I think like Clump said, he's super self-aware, and people pretend like he's not. I think this narrative, this anti-Vince narrative, and this evil Vince narrative, I don't know, to me is overplayed and boring. Because if we've been worked so hard that his character in 1998 still rings true to us to this day, we're a little not as smart as we pretend to be. Other than that, the show, let's see. Oh, they had that Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt package, which was kind of neat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The women's tag team match was a little shorter than I was hoping it would be. Lacey defeated Sasha to get Money in the Bank. So we got the Money in the Bank matches are starting to shape up a little bit.
Seemed like she wanted to strip on the ladder.
Oh, yeah.
We're still doing that.
She came out to the ladder and was like straddling it and stuff, and it's like, I thought we were past that, but I guess
What
it's...
is your character?
Yeah.
I'm a proud military feminist stripper.
Yeah, and a mother.
And another.
Yeah.
I'm a Rosie the Riveter cosplay at like Venom.
Oh,
Yeah.
and she was trying to talk some shit on social media. I don't know.
Oh, that was funny. Let's talk about that for a second. So, Lacey said something on Twitter I didn't see, but the response by Bailey was, you should study almost any ladder match to get an idea of how you're supposed to do this. And her response to that was, look, why would I take any advice from you? Look how long it's taken you to get to where you're at. And in under 4 short years, I'm going to be in a match that you've never been a part of. And then made a comment of like, in 4 years, I've never done anything that involved any studying. I've never studied a thing. And so it's like, okay, for one, that comes across. But then she goes, and why would I take advice from you for a ladder match? And in parentheses put, a match in which you've never been a part of. And Sasha responded to that with a picture of Bailey holding up the Money in the Bank briefcase and the SmackDown Women's title.
Literally last year.
Yeah, literally last year. So, yeah, I'm not going to take advice from you because you've never been in the match. And it was like, literally last year I won it while you were here. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then for her to say she's literally studied nothing is like, it's not endearing. I don't know how that comes off as a face kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was in there. That was funny. I liked the Baron and Drew Gulak. It looks like this coming up week we're gonna get Daniel Bryan and Corbin 1-on-1. Yeah, and then they won the tag champions. They're still held on to it. Yeah, I mean, for me, that was the big highlight of SmackDown. I still enjoyed it, but that was the big SmackDown stuff to me. Was there anything else in there you wanted to touch ground on?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see.
They cracked a little bit in a long period of time, it seems.
Yeah. And then on Raw, so one thing I wanted to bring up about Raw specifically was they did the top 10 Triple H career-defining moments.
Which felt like a more proper 25-year send-off.
It did feel a little more proper. My problem was with some of them. I'll go through them real quick. Number 10 was March 98 when he formed DX after Shawn left, and I agreed with that entirely. The other thing is I thought, when I saw that, I was like... You said what?
I thought that should be higher.
Exactly. And so my thought when I first saw that, I was like, oh, they're going chronologically. 10-1 in like oldest to newest. But then the second thing they put was his Mania match with Sting. And I was all like, oh, they're not. They're putting in order of importance. And I was like, I would argue the formation of DX was one of the most defining moments of Triple H's career. That without Shawn Michaels leaving, Triple H would never have become a main eventer because he was constantly forced under Shawn's shadow, not by any fault of his own, but by making DX, it created the next several years of story for him about creating this army who was there to get him to the top, you know?
Well, and it's weird because in so many of the other moments that came up, they had, like, a reference to DX.
Yes.
Because it was like, Like, oh, we're gonna have this one where it's the 5-on-5 with DX. Wait, then why the fuck is DX last?
Yeah, forming DX was not as important as doing stuff with DX. What?
Mm-hmm.
So I
Was
definitely
it
thought that.
Yeah. Was it number one, him and Sean coming out as fucking Vince and Shane?
No, we'll get
Or
to
that was,
there
like,
because I'm
number
going
3?
through them, Clump. But number 9 was Mania was his Mania match with Sting, and I thought that should have been much lower on the list, even though it was only number 9. I thought I'd put it at least at 10, just because that was largely unimportant to the Triple H character. The win against Sting didn't help him much because the win against Sting was meant to help propel Triple H into a match with The Rock at next Mania, which never happened. So they've largely looked back on that as a missed call, and Triple H has even said in an interview that knowing what he knows now, that the Rock match would have never happened, he would have had Sting go over. That it made more sense for Sting to win that match than for him, but they wanted him to look strong in Mania because he was supposed to build towards the Rock at Mania leading up the next year. So I would say with that in mind, it was largely an important match to Triple H and Sting personally, but to the career of Triple H, not as important.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. 8 was 99 SmackDown main event where HBK interferes to help Triple H retain the title against The Rock. I don't know what the fuck that has to do with his career. It was just him retaining a title. Was that his last match against The Rock?
Yeah, I don't know. I was wondering the same thing. I was like, because at first when they started showing the clip, I was like, oh, he's gonna win the title here.
Yeah.
Last singles match, maybe, because I know he had 4 corners. The 4 corners match after that.
Did he?
Which sucked. Yeah, that came after. That sucked. But,
so maybe if it was his last singles match against The Rock, then I understand it. I don't think that's as important as forming DX.
Yeah.
Also, the HBK had to interfere, but that does kind of define his character in that defined his character as a cheat to win kind of a guy. Let's see, number 7 was July 2000, where he was caught by Stephanie practicing moves on Trish, where it looked like he was banging her, doing the old bangaroo. I don't see how that was important to his character at all.
Altogether.
You said what?
I said that should have been left off altogether.
I agree. There was nothing about that moment that made me think that should be on the list. Like, what about that was important or defining? Which will bring me into the 3 items not on the list that I thought could have taken something's place. But number 6 was his 97 King of the Ring win. I didn't realize he beat Mankind for that. Mankind got all the way to the finals for 97 King of the Ring. How cool is that? And it wasn't even corporate Mankind. It was like deranged Mankind.
Deranged, yeah.
Yeah. So I was kind of like, oh shit, I didn't even realize that. That's really cool for the Mankind character. And also, like, how the fuck would you have done Mankind as King of the Ring at that point?
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, Dorkchop says match with Sting shouldn't even be in the top 10. It was just WWE flexing their win over WCW many years after no one cared anymore.
Yeah.
That's how it felt.
Yeah.
It's only how it felt because of them trying to book towards Triple H and Rock. Like I said,
yes.
Triple H has said in hindsight that he thinks Sting should have gone over only because he knew he knows now he wasn't going to get that match with The Rock. So I think that like they tried to build the match as though it wasn't that, but because of the win being what it was, that it ended up becoming that. I think it's also why he looks at it that way, is the match was overshadowed by the finish, when the match in and of itself, when you watch it stand alone without thinking about the fact that Sting would be injured shortly after and Triple H and Rock would never meet, if you watch it as a standalone match, there's something really cool about NWO and DX kind of going face to face and doing all their shit to each other and goofing off. Like, it was kind of cool. That was the one thing we wish we'd seen in the WCW invasion angle that just flat out never happened. So
yeah.
I think it was a really cool fan blow off. I think it meant a lot to the wrestlers involved. And I don't think it was really intended to be, and we beat you guys, so much as it was like, can you imagine how much fun we would have had if we could have done this? You know what I mean? So, yeah, NWO and DX weren't needed necessarily, But I do think that was a really fun story to tell with those guys that they didn't have a chance to do again. And I think that if you'd asked any one of them if they think that they should have been there, I don't think any one of those people would not have wanted to be involved in that the way they were. Especially in hindsight. Especially knowing Sting would never get another another Mania.
See, I just wish when they did that, since we're talking about it, I just wish Shawn, X-Pac, Six, whatever. I think it would have been funnier if he was like torn on which side to be on. Not funnier, but I think it would have been more interesting.
Yeah, if X-Pac was down there with DX and then NWO comes out and they're looking at him like, what the fuck? And he's kind of like, I don't know. Like, yeah. Just runs under the ring or some shit. I think that too. I do think that NWO took an awful long time to get down the ramp, and it left DX with going like, what the fuck are we supposed to do? Like, how do we kill this time and not look goofy? But I think that was probably those 9 guys' favorite Mania moment. You know what I mean? Like, it was such a callback to what could have been that I can agree with it being on the list. I just think it should be on the bottom of the list. And like I said, I think in hindsight, if they had done the win with Sting, none of us would be saying anything negative about the match at all. We'd all be going, it was amazing. It was fuck perfect.
Yeah. You
know what I mean? I think just the finish was the problem, and the finish was based off of a reality we didn't get. Let's see. Number 5 was November 2019, NXT Invasion on SmackDown. I can agree to that because it really solidified Triple H as the face of NXT in a real tangible moment where otherwise he was just like known to be there.
But I don't think it should be number 5. I think that should be further down on the list.
Yeah. Although that's an important part of the evolution of his character. Let's see. Dork Chop's got to go. He said, good chat. Have a good stream. Good night there, Dork Chop. Cheers. Thanks for coming through. Come derail us next week. Let's see. 4 was the skit that Clump was talking about earlier, where they played Triple H was Vince McMahon. I think that was there because the DX parody of Nation of Domination aged so poorly.
Yeah. I think just a little bit.
I think that's 100% why that's there, because that parody would have never happened if they hadn't have done the Nation parody.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you think like there was like, well, we can put the Nation parody in, and someone's like, you mean the one where X-Pac in blackface?
Yeah, where X-Pac in blackface and says that he eats shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, no, I meant the one where he's like Vince. He like plays Vince.
Yeah.
That's the one. I mean, and also so much of later DX was there, and it was like later DX.
Yeah, a lot of later DX. Yeah. I also think that the Nation was shitting on The Rock too much, and they put him on such a pedestal now that it's more fun and cool to make fun of Vince than it is to make fun of The Rock.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I felt like that parody was there. Let's see, number 3 was February 2003 with the Evolution debut, which is easy to argue.
Once again, it should be on the list, but not that high. Not above him for me.
I mean, you could put Evolution up there pretty high because it built up several people. You know, it established not just Randy Orton and Batista, it established Ric Flair.
In WWE, for sure.
But to the WWE audience.
Yeah, WWE's Ric Flair was lackluster at best up until that whole run. And I would argue that run made Triple H the game. You know what I mean? Like, yes. the King of Kings and stuff came out of that, which I would say the formation of DX is more important because it led him to there, but the Evolution should be high, but I think DX should have been higher.
But see, yeah, I think, like I said, I think it shouldn't have been as high as DX because the whole DX army, to me, wasn't that the turning point of the Monday Night Wars?
X-Pac coming on to DX and leaving NWO was one of the big moments where it showed, like, here's someone not leaving WWE for WCW, but here's someone leaving WCW for WWE, and that was a big deal because at that time people were just going to WCW, and their argument was they were dinosaurs and they didn't know what they were talking about. And here was a young guy from WCW coming over to WWE saying shit's fucked up over there, and that was a big deal because that showed what do they say about the armor being weak, effectively weak armor in NWO. Yeah. The next one they had up there was the April 1998 DX Invasion on WCW, which again, for that to be number 2, but the formation be number 10, a little weird.
Yeah.
And then the number 1 being his return from injury after he tore both of his quads, or one of his quads or whatever during a match. He came back 8 months later at Madison Square Garden. The 3 things I thought that made Triple H storyline-wise more important than some of those things was Triple H beating HBK in 2002 in that unsanctioned street fight when HBK came back, because it solidified Triple H to me as a real true single star who was not in the shadow of HBK. Where prior to that, every time HBK came back, it was, oh, here's HBK back to take his place and Triple H is a sidekick again. I thought him being awarded the heavyweight championship in 2002, I believe it was by Eric Bischoff, where they literally just handed him the heavyweight title and said, you're our new heavyweight champion. I thought solidified him as a super heel and ordained by the corporate structure, which led on to so much of his character. You know what I mean? Here was him as a heel actually just being handed a world title. And then the other one I had was him beating Mankind for the title in '99. This was right after Foley's baby, Foley's baby boy finally did it. What was it?
Something like that.
What was the whole deal with Foley and his mom? But it was when
Mrs. Foley's baby boy.
Yeah, Mrs. Foley's baby boy finally did it. I'm bringing it home, Mom. You know, that was such a feel-good moment for Mankind, and then for like a week later or whatever it was, like a month later or something, for Triple H to beat Mankind and take it, I thought also helped solidify Triple H as what was going to be part of his legacy of an ultra heel who's always getting what he wants and stuff. So I thought those were 3 moments that could have easily taken the place of being caught with Trish Stratus, with them doing a parody of Vince, with that main event with The Rock, unless that was something else. Even, I think one of those could have taken the place of the Mania Sting match.
Yeah. Well, I'm surprised that they didn't include him marrying Steph.
That's actually a really good point that we both missed.
You know, like, I'm surprised that one wasn't on there.
I think one thing you could have also thrown out, too, like, if we're going to do these weird moments where it's maybe him as, like, someone backstage, talk about that more. That would have been neat, you know? You could have talked about MSG. You could have talked, you know what I mean? But no.
Yeah, I do think that maybe the wedding to Stephanie would also not age well. Because they've replayed it a couple times, and every time people are all like, wait, what the fuck was that? Because she was like...
feud with Eugene.
Yeah. So I think that's possible, but I do think that that's definitely something that should have probably been on the list regardless.
Well, maybe not when he got married, but at least when they revealed she's staying married to him.
That's true, because later on, remember, there was that whole turn where she was all like, under his will
she turned
or whatnot.
On Vince.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden she turns to Vince and smiles, and she's all like, we're together, Dad, and all that, That could have been big, where she solidified the marriage with Triple H. Let's see, as far as Raw went otherwise, the Viking Raiders had a promo that was very Viking Raiders, and it suddenly felt out of place because of the sing-along last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, when that happened, I was all like, wait, what the fuck is this? Why are we back to normal? Like, what happened to that turkey leg?
Well, you can't have these, like clip show episodes and then go back, you know?
Yeah, you can't just back out of it now. I need to know. They had a fucking turkey leg and the stage shut down. Where did he get it?
It would have been cool if they started establishing a parody of carpool karaoke with other performers and then just slowly built up to them last week. And then, like, this week we have Aleister Black doing it, where he's just silently there as music plays and he's just, like, there. or have it be like Norwegian death metal and he's singing and like shit, you know? Like, oh, cool, he's singing Immortal.
That could work.
Black metal, not death metal.
Oh, like from Evanescence? Like, I think that would be good if Aleister Black was singing Evanescence.
Okay, I thought you were saying like you're like comparing Evanescence to death metal and black metal.
Yeah, that's the black metal band Evanescence. I think it would
I
make
will
sense.
drive over there and break quarantine to hit you.
I think it would make sense. That's the kind of music that Aleister Black would listen to.
We're done. We're doing this. Okay.
We're done. Wrap it up.
Producer, give me my fucking keys.
Yeah.
Where'd you go? He's not there right now.
Oh, did he walk away?
Yeah.
He's coming to beat me up.
That worked out to scratch my ass.
All right.
He's coming back.
I thought that segment with Asuka, Nia Jax, and Shayna Baszler was some bullshit.
Yeah, big time.
It was fucking horseshit. They kept talking about it like it was a match. Like, well, there's no DQs, so that's why they're on the outside and this and that. And then all of a sudden, she just throws the ladder at nothing and then stands there and her music plays. And I was like, what the fuck was all of that?
No ref.
Yeah.
So,
and
with
then
very
to me-
low audio,
Yeah.
yeah.
I looked at that
To
and
me,
I
that-
was like, wait, is this a match? What? What? Like, it was...
And there
I'm
was
glad it
never a
actually being
ref.
with audio than without.
And there was never a ref. So when was the match supposed to happen?
I thought the ref was on the outside.
Never.
And if you're some ruthless motherfucker who beats people down and hurts them, throw the ladder.
Yeah.
They can catch it for you. You're the one who has trouble with things getting close. If anything, you throwing a ladder at them is the safest thing you can do.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, and then the thing that got me the most was
So weird. Like, I was just like, what is this? And then, also it was funny, when she jumped out of the ring, the first thing I thought is, don't do that, your knees.
She's got hydraulics
They're
there now. They replaced those. Yeah. Yeah. Dude, the fact that they keep talking about her having torn ACLs, that's not what happened. She had no ACLs. They were crushed into oblivion. They were just completely turned to dust under the sheer weight of her being. And well, I mean, she jumps sometimes, sort of. But so they even talked about in Total Divas. They showed the X-rays and stuff, and the guy's like, "Oh, your ACLs are bad." She goes, "Are they're torn?" He's like, "They're just not there." She's like, "What?" She goes, "I don't have ACLs." And he's like, "Really? No. Like, there's nothing there. Like, they're just powder." And it's like, yeah,
Say powder.
yeah. So it's like for them to try and spin it into this athletic injury. No, you fucking crushed them.
well, there was a basketball player that he got drafted, and then it was revealed that his ACLs were gone too.
Yeah, but
The guy from the Pacers.
No, he got drafted by the Spurs. I forgot his name. He was
Oh.
good in college, but
Yeah. So what
Tim
happened?
Duncan?
huh?
Tim Duncan?
No.
That's the only Spurs player I know.
So what happened? Did they say oh, just go ahead and get new knees?
Well, they kind of repaired it, but then he just wasn't the same basketball player since.
No, fake knees will do that. I
But-
guess.
But the thing that
team for...
yeah, that's Tim Duncan. But the thing that I was gonna say that really pissed me off about that segment is how weak Shayna looked.
Yeah.
After demolishing everyone in the Elimination Chamber, I was like, you just shit on everything you built up with her.
Yeah, for Nia? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
The good news about what you said about the knee injury with the guy from the basketball player, like you
He was
said,
never the same.
yeah, that he was never quite the same. The good news is that Nia is still as awful as she ever was. So she hasn't quite lost a step so much as she's just never had a step.
Yeah.
And maybe if
It's
she
a
used
face-
steps, she would still have knees.
It's a face turn. She spared the ladder by not throwing it, then also by not climbing it.
Dude, and what the fuck was that bullshit promo?
go after. Right?
Oh,
Yeah.
what is it? You're not me or whatever. Or, I forgot how.
Yeah.
It was.
Charlie's face.
What are you gonna do about it?
Yeah,
What are you gonna
nothing.
do?
So, since we're fine making fun of Nia here, I did when because it was maybe the longest time I've seen her Titantron graphic appear,
Mm-hmm.
so you could kind of watch the video. When it said irresistible force, the first thing I thought of is like a planet's gravity.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I got Kevin almost spit.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, and that fucking promo I thought was just absolute garbage. And I don't know why you would sacrifice Shayna to a Nia, ever.
Well, even if it was in a match, maybe, where she gets taken out some other way, but not just Nia beating her up and that's it, pretty much.
Shayna is a credible threat, and Nia is just a big bitch. That's it.
Yeah.
She's just enormous. That's it. She doesn't come off as tough or scary or as an actual threat or even a fucking fighter. Like when she was talking that shit to Ronda online, where she goes, "Oh, I'll dare you to get in the ring and do something to me." Fuck, please let them get in the ring. Let them get into an octagon, because there's nothing to me scary about Nia, and I have no reason to believe she could ever win an actual fight.
You could injure someone, but...
She injured someone who wasn't expecting to be punched. She sucker punched someone as hard as she could in their face. That, to me, tells me that person's a piece of shit and not a good fighter. If your thought is, I'm going to sucker punch that someone and break their face, but if that's your move, then you're not gonna do great in an octagon where they see it coming. You know?
I like when Natty on, was it Total Divas?
Yeah.
When she asked her, Natty said, you didn't do that on purpose. And the hesitation from Nia
Was crazy.
She was like, no.
Yeah. There was a moment where Natty said something, because like Nia's like, I feel like people judge me for hitting her and stuff. And Natty was like, well, you didn't do it on purpose. And then Nia kind of like looks to the side and she's like, no, I mean, I didn't. And you're like, what?
Then she turns to the camera and gives a wink.
Yeah. She like looked down to the side and was like, no. Like she didn't want to look Natty in the eyes and say no. And you're all like, what the fuck was that? Like,
Yeah.
With all the response of like Carol Baskins denying killing her husband.
yeah.
I didn't feed him to tigers.
Yeah.
Also, side note, I looked in WWE shop for Nia gear because I kind of wanted to buy a Marsha Nia shirt.
Oh, come on.
We have tons of toilet paper.
Fucking first shirt that comes up is, and I kind of feel like it's being fucked up. Nia Jax Irresistible First Women's Curvy T-shirt. I was like,
Yeah.
fuck you.
She's got a specific fan base.
Hey, that's
Okay,
that's
how
why I
is
wanted to
there a
support her.
small women's
Yeah.
curvy T-shirt?
I wanted to support her originally, knowing nothing about her. Like I wanted to support her years ago because I was like, oh, she's a different body type, cool,
Yeah.
diversity, like.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I was like, this is great. This is great to show that you can be a WWE superstar and not be a doll, you know? And then she comes
Piper
out
Niven
and she's
is
just a
way
fucking
better for
sloppy
that.
mess. And you're like, go back to your fucking basement.
Yeah.
Bobby Lashley
Piper
got a
Niven
win.
serves that better.
Yeah. Oh, what do you guys think about the Liv Morgan Ruby Riott stuff?
Oh yeah.
I honestly thought I was watching last week's show.
Yeah, the match wasn't totally different, and I feel like that the biggest problem with it was they didn't give them both a promo, which I think
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say.
yeah, if they both had a little promo before it saying like this isn't over, and Ruby's like you got lucky, and Liv's all like not only did I not get lucky, but I'll face you tonight, like I'll do it again right now, like then you'd be like oh shit, there's tension, and Ruby, you know, they could build a little bitch.
Bitch.
Yeah, bitch. But then they didn't do that, and they just had the match. I did think it was pretty cool to have Liv kick out of the Riot kick, but I also don't think they've done enough to establish Riot as a threat again. So it also came off
not
like,
at all.
right? Like, she was jobbing out before she got injured. She gets injured. She comes back, and she's jobbing again. And you're like, I feel like Ruby Riott should be in the title contention at all times. And they've really done a lot to minimize that.
Yeah, when you think about her and Natty,
Yeah.
it was fantastic.
Yeah, the her and Natty story was great. Those matches were great. I don't think the match was bad, but yeah, I do think it was very similar to last week, so I agree with that. What'd you guys think of the Liv Morgan promo afterwards?
That was weird.
Okay.
And
good.
weird, not like a good way.
Yeah.
Seeing it without audio, it was weird.
That is really weird to watch a promo with no words.
Yeah.
I tweeted out right afterwards that promo felt like introspective Steiner math.
Huh?
Is that positive or negative? Because I don't know how to react to that statement.
Well, do you remember the Steiner math promo?
Yeah.
Do you remember it, Kev?
Yeah.
Where he's all like, you get 33 and a third chance of winning. Remember the one?
If you take Samoa Joe and see his chance of winning, and then measure against me, and I got a 27 and 2/3% chance of winning, and just the people behind him's eyes rolling into the back of their heads. And I wish I could do a better Scott Steiner accent.
Yeah, it's right here.
For the TNA heavyweight title at Sacrifice between you, Kurt Angle, and Samoa Joe. Now, before you get there, you have an important step tonight as you and X Division champion Petey Williams take on the unlikely duo of Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe.
You know, they say all men are created equal, but you look at me and you look at Small Joe, and you can see that statement is not true. See, normally if you go one-on-one with another wrestler, you got a 50-50 chance of winning. But I'm a genetic freak, and I'm not normal. So you got a 25% at best at beating me. And then you add Kurt Angle to the mix, your chances of winning drastically go down. See, the three-way at Sacrifice, you got a 33 and a third chance of winning. But I got a 66 and 2/3 chance of winning because Kurt Angle knows he can't beat me, and he's not even going to try. So, Samoa Joe, you take your 33 and a third chance minus my 25% chance, and you got an 8 and a third chance of winning at Sacrifice. But then you take my 75% chance of winning if we used to go one-on-one and then add 66 and 2/3%. I got 141 and 2/3 chance of winning at Sacrifice. See, Joe, the numbers don't lie, and they spell disaster for you at Sacrifice. See, but I'm going to break it down for you ladies. Would you rather be with me, or would you rather be with Joe?
Wow.
And there's a long pause before the answer.
Wow.
Because they're like, what?
Yeah, because what the fuck?
Just happened.
Also, best thing if you ever want to watch like Big E's cameo, someone paid him to do that promo, and it's amazing.
Oh, yeah?
Oh.
Him doing the entire promo and it's like him breaking.
That's awesome. But yeah, I felt like the promo after that match... was that this one from the 20th? Or no, that wasn't the 20th. That was the 20th.
No, it should be the 27th.
The 27th.
Just did
27th. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick. Tomorrow,
Preface this
27th.
with, we are big Liv Morgan fans, really Riot Squad fans in general.
Yeah, right
So
here.
many chapters, and there's going to continue to be.
Morgan?
Wow. You know, Byron, I feel like I've had so many chapters, and there's going to continue to be so many more chapters of me. But right now, I feel like a lot of people my age. I'm still trying to figure out who I am and exactly what that means and exactly who that is. But I'm going to figure it out, and I'm confident that I will figure it out, Byron.
Congratulations on your victory.
Yeah, there's just so many chances and chapters, and it's just all about the chapters, and I got more chapters, and it's not my only chapter, but there'll be another chapter, but on the first chapter.
Producer here. I definitely thought she left for a long time to figure out whatever, I don't know what she's doing, but character-wise, she's going to come back super different, knowing who she is. And then we got these teasers, and then she finally came back, and I thought, there's no question, it's a new Liv Morgan. She's got shit figured out with her character. And then we get this, and I am all over the place confused.
Yeah, like, wait, what the hell? I thought that was the whole point. You left and found yourself. You figured it, like, for them to say, is this the beginning of a new chapter? And her response to be like, I don't know. I'm trying to figure things out. Okay, that also means to me the answer should have been yes. Yes, this is a new chapter because it's not what was going on before. So yeah, I felt like her promo was definitely Steiner Brothers math.
She could have even used less lines. It sounded like she was flustered, honestly. Like she didn't know she was gonna have any mic work at the end.
Yeah, she sounded off guard. She sounded caught off guard, and I thought that was unfortunate. Because we are big fans.
Yeah, but maybe if she just kind of gave looks instead of rambling lines, I think I could have worked with that. I could have been like, oh, okay, she didn't need to talk or something, or
Yeah.
I could have been behind her a bit more character-wise.
Yeah. I mean, she could have even made it like really simple and been like, it's a new chapter, and wait till you see how it ends, and walks out. You're like, oh,
bitch.
okay.
Yeah.
And especially with all her like, watch me. I mean, she's constantly tweeting, watch me. She's all like, it is a new chapter. Watch me. And then leaves. And you're like, oh shit. Liv Morgan with the new tease.
What's she going to do next?
Yeah.
Right.
What next? Now I got to watch. But for her to be like, I don't know. The thing about chapters is there's books. And I just feel like it's a chapter. But it's like, I wouldn't say chapter. Look, there's a lot of people my age. I feel like I'm home a lot. Like that's what it felt like.
Why are you making
She
her
sounds like
sound like an old lady?
That's what she did.
Why did you make her sound like the coach from Big Mouth?
She's younger
Yeah.
than us.
Yeah, she's younger than us. I mean, if you look at her social media, she's suddenly got like all these new age things up there, all these jewels and geodes and little crystals and shit. So at one point when she was kind of like, she's like, a lot of people my age. I was like, oh shit, she's gonna go into some sort of vortex talk. She's gonna start talking. I was like, I spent a lot of time in Sedona.
God damn.
I just feel like that. I don't know if I'd say chapter, but maybe a new sense of being and center. And then she just brings out crystals and starts rubbing them on Byron's face. Like, do you feel that energy?
I had metal before this match.
Yeah.
I don't know if that goes with her look.
Yeah, he's like, would you say this is a new chapter? And they turn and she's just lighting sage on fire. And just like waving it in front of people on Byron's face. She's like, I don't know, I gotta cleanse you.
Next week comes out with dreads and the smell.
Yeah.
Like everyone has to act out like, oh fuck.
Yeah. Everyone goes like, oh, you've got a new smell. Would you say the smell is a new chapter? I don't know. A lot of people my age smell.
It smells like patchouli and shit. That's
Going well.
Um,
Moral of the story.
Yeah, that was Liv Morgan Steiner moment to me, but I mean, I really want her to do well, and I'm really excited about where her character has gone, and I thought this whole thing derailed what seemed to be like a monster focus that she had, Jinder Mahal's back.
Yay!
Woo!
it was funny when I saw Akira.
Yeah.
Good.
No, what'd you see about Akira?
When I saw Akira Tozawa, the first thing I thought was like, okay, who is he bumping like a motherfucker for? And then I saw Jinder, I was like, maybe. Okay, we have a fighting chance at a win here.
Yeah. I do think this is their first step in building up towards a Drew McIntyre and Jinder Mahal rivalry with the title.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm interested for that. I don't like that Seth is somehow in the middle of that. I feel like Seth should be the ultimate beast to pull down at this point. Like, I feel like you should be saving Seth, but if they're building towards a...
I still just don't like that Drew challenged Seth.
Yeah. I don't like anything that Drew's doing.
Yeah.
I just don't fucking like Drew.
Yeah. I think that he's the biggest heel in the fucking business right now, and no one's talking about it. Like, he's such a pompous piece of shit. He comes off super entitled. His whole, he's so patronizing in everything he says to everyone. I cannot get behind him even for a second. Just even his way of, patronizing Seth, where he's like, let me give you some advice. First off, it's like, who the fuck are you, dude? Like, for him to say, let me give you some advice, I've had this championship for almost 2 weeks now. Like, you know who you're talking to? You know what I mean? Like, Seth fucking Rollins has been one of the biggest collectors of championships in the last, 10 years on that show. So for Drew to be like, let me give you some advice, I was already, checked out. Like, fuck you, dude. Who are you? You barely got that title. You know? And, you say that you did a thing that's never been done before. But you know what? Seth has beat Brock twice. You know? Seth is tried and true and proven, and you could be a fluke. You haven't proved you're not a fluke yet. So, I was immediately against him.
When you threw that out, so it's funny, is in my training, I have a new wrestling homie, and we were chatting, and he's like, I don't watch WWE, I watch AEW a lot. And he's like, well, what do you think? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. We were getting along, but he's like, what do you think about Drew McIntyre? And I kind of was kind of like, I put in there, he's this pompous piece of shit.
Yeah.
He's like, I like him as Drew Gallagher. And you're expected to cheer for him. He's like this anointed, we're expected to believe he's everything that makes up an amazing shitty heel.
Yeah.
But they don't get the joke.
Yeah, 100%. I just don't get it at all. His posing last week with the title over his crotch and shit. I was all like, what a fucking scumbag. I don't see how everyone's cheering him. I just don't.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
He's got wet hair.
Yeah. I'm not behind him even for a second. But I do like Jinder coming back. I do think that Jinder versus Drew could be a cool rivalry.
Two-man band.
We're a two-man
We're
band.
band.
Two-man band. Apollo Crews got injured on the show.
The duet.
Andrade. What?
Was that real?
I don't think so, but it's definitely a storyline where they tweeted out either last night or this morning that Apollo was pulled from the Money in the Bank match.
See, I was wondering about that. Are they going to pull him, or is it an underdog push? But
yeah,
they pulled him.
They announced that they pulled him. I still think you could do an underdog push after the fact, because you can have him come back with this all I'm tired of waiting around, I can't get a fucking bone, and then have him go ballistic on some motherfuckers. I think you could do it. And I think it'd be great. And I think people will be behind him. Because I think that I think he's got the longevity in the company, and he's got the raw athleticism that people are impressed by, that I think people are ready to cheer for him. And I think
I whenever I see him perform, I'm like, oh cool, he does good matches. It's just I was pumped, and it sucks that he's not in it. I'm kind of I get the idea of a push after, but then I'm like, why not just put him in it? Have him look strong.
Well, yeah, because I think they want someone else with that briefcase, which is also fine. You know what I mean? Okay, you can have someone with the beast in the bank kind of a deal. You're kind of the boogeyman, as Samoa Joe called it. Say what?
The Brock Party?
Yeah, Brock Party. Samoa Joe talked about it being the boogeyman in the bank. That you're kind of lurking around now. And I agree with all that. So they can definitely give it to somebody who's got an imposing threat who wasn't before. But then you can also build that Daniel Bryan story with Apollo Crews. I mean, it wouldn't be the same Daniel Bryan story, obviously, but that whole they're just not behind me and I work so goddamn hard. I think people could get behind, and I think that's also one of those testaments to, this person's never booked right, and the corporate response oftentimes is you gotta wait, and you don't know when your time's gonna come up. If they do push him after this, then it's one of those times of sometimes you're just a character on the show for a long time. But that doesn't mean you won't get your moment. You know what I mean? Not everyone could be on top all the time, kind of a deal. So I'm curious to see where they go with it after this, because I do think that this opens up for a really cool underdog story with Apollo Crews. However, it also really opens up the idea of squashing Apollo Crews as a character altogether. So it's balls in their court. Who do you think should take his place in the ladder match?
Brock Lesnar.
No.
Hell yeah,
Yes.
dude. Be so good.
So
good.
Fuck everyone.
If Seth wasn't in the championship match, I'd say him, but
That would be more like Brock Lesnar than Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
That's true.
I don't.
Roman
Jinder?
Reigns.
I'm just trying to think of somebody on Raw.
Jinder would be cool
Yeah.
to actually have like let's say Andrade comes out next week and says, "Hey, because he's out, I'm gonna take his spot," and have Jinder come out and be all like, "You don't just come around here and take opportunities like that, you know," and somehow
That's my job.
yeah, that's mine. I do that. What do they open up the network in Mexico? You don't get to be champion.
Dude, what about Kevin Owens?
Oh, Kevin Owens would be sick, dude.
Where's he been?
I don't know. Ever since WrestleMania, he's been gone.
They deported him to Canada.
It's really hard to
Canada.
Yeah, I mean, it's also really hard to say during this pandemic time frame. Like, there's no telling who's got to be where and when. Was it like we just found out Sami Zayn had like wisdom teeth pulled?
2 weeks ago.
Okay.
But also, actually, that reminds me, everyone that's doing shows is voluntary, right?
Yeah, and anyone who's doing the show is voluntarily doing it and currently living in a hotel in Florida to do it. So it's like, if you're on the show, it's because you're trying hard to be there and are okay with being away from the family.
How nice of a hotel?
I don't know, man. I haven't been there. They don't invite me anywhere.
It doesn't matter.
It does.
No, I've
Yeah,
been
it
deployed.
100%
No,
does.
I've been deployed in countries where I had to stay on lockdown in a hotel.
Yeah, but they had like those nice buffets and the waffles you make.
Yeah, and every day was like Groundhog's Day. It gets old very quickly.
But the waffles, though, if there's a waffle downstairs, I'll take it every day. Groundhog's Day is
Put
fine.
chocolate chips in it.
The chocolate chips, you
Groundhog-
put the little peanut butter smear on it, and a little bit of whipped cream.
Yeah.
It's all right there.
You just mix it up.
Yeah,
Groundhog Day at the Phoenician.
yeah.
Or like
But
a
at the same
JW
time,
Marriott.
it's got to be the
Fantastic.
big Belgian waffle one. The last time I was out, I went to the one that was the little 4 waffles, but they're a little bit flatter. And I had those. They're just not as good. You got to have the big Belgian one. You put the peanut butter
I don't
chips.
like it when they do the 4 little tiny ones.
No, those don't work as well.
One thing, yeah.
The only thing that
No.
would suck is just going back to your room and having it be when you turn the TV on, it goes back to the menu. That's the only thing that ever sucks about a hotel.
Oh, that it doesn't stay on the channel?
Yeah, like, I have to watch
Oh.
Mario Lopez again.
I usually only watch on my tablet anyways.
You'd be fine. Yeah, just
Yeah,
like,
I'd be fine.
yeah.
I've always had a hard time. Sometimes I'll get back and I'll be like, oh, I should try and watch on my tablet. And as I'm watching like Raw on my tablet, I go, wait a second, this hotel probably got USA, and I'll flip it over, and it usually works out all right.
The other thing with Money in the Bank, because we're way off subject right now.
Oh,
It's
I
in
didn't notice.
Connecticut.
It's in Connecticut. Yeah, it's in Stamford.
Yeah,
On the roof
on the roof. Well,
of
starting
Titan
on
fucking tower.
It also supposedly has already been filmed.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So right now they say Daniel Bryan, Aleister Black, Rey Mysterio, and King Corbin. So we're missing 2.
Too.
And then the women is Shayna Baszler, Nia Jax, Asuka, Dana Brooke, and Lacey Evans. And that's either going to be Mandy Rose or Carmella based off of the match this Friday.
Well, they announced the men's match, too,
Yeah, I'm looking that up.
with Dolph and Otis.
That's right, Dolph and Otis.
Because I had a good idea for
Dotus.
winners.
Yeah. Producer wants the Otis and Mandy to both win Money in the Bank and then to be like some sort of weird power couple with Money in the Bank briefcases.
Weird.
That'd be weird.
That'd be very weird.
I just want to see the segment where they go to like fuck, and it's just
Yeah.
them dropping briefcases on each other.
Oh, that'd be good.
Do you want me to put up
You
the...
just
Or-
see like it's just like feet, and you just see briefcases popping as they leave to somewhere.
I would
I
like...
just want to see Otis climb a ladder.
Yeah, I think Otis on a ladder would be cool. I think Otis winning the Money in the Bank and opening the briefcase and pulling out slices of ham periodically could be a really good storyline moving forward.
Do you want me to put up your Money in the Bank picture?
With the toilet paper? Go ahead.
Dude, that'd be
It's
so
right.
great. He goes to cash it in, he hands it to the ref. The ref opens it up and the ham falls out.
Yeah.
Ate
That'd be
so
great.
much sausage.
You can't cash it in. There's no contract.
Yeah,
And
it's in there. It's in there. I
clearly
swear.
bitten Through like
All right, the new and improved Money in the Bank.
Grease stains on the contract.
Yeah, it'd be great. It'd be absolutely great. Yeah, I do think that there's still room to put rolls of toilet paper on the hook instead of a contract. I still think there's room for that.
So you're welcome, WW, for this brilliant idea.
Yeah, you heard it here first. Money in the Bank is going to be toilet paper rolls, and then we'll have a whole year of people like fighting to wipe their ass on things.
I hope not.
Yeah, it'll be good stuff.
Sponsored by Taco Bell.
Yeah.
Free tacos every week.
Yeah, every week there's a new free taco, Dorito Loco.
Wait, that's every week?
Dude, every week it's a different one though. I can't tell what day those. Oh, actually, you know what? I bet you it's every Thursday.
Tuesdays.
It's not
Taco
fucking
Tuesdays.
It's every Tuesday?
Taco Tuesday.
I would imagine Taco Tuesday's a thing.
Sorry. There we go.
We're on. We're back.
We're back.
We're back. We are live. Yeah, I guess I gotta get a new computer.
Did you tell them my ideas?
No.
What were those ideas?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. What's the idea?
Oh, yeah.
So I was telling Bear that I have.
Clump. He goes by Clump here, but we like Bear. We're gonna use that later.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. She can be off camera. No, it's good. I'm gonna probably text you later for some pictures that we can use with the term Bear.
For shenanigans.
Yeah.
Crybaby Bear.
Yeah, baby cub.
Crybaby cub.
Oh my god.
Say your shit.
Say your shit.
So I had 2 ideas, but he was just like, too busy, like just being away and being a doof.
No, he's a scumbag. We got it.
2 tacos. Come on.
Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, I can agree to that.
Okay, so can you stop being distracting? Thank you.
He's very distracting.
Yes, he is. Okay, so what I was saying is, you know how you have it's not the bits, it's the other, like the points that people earn for watching.
Yeah.
What if you do something like 1,000 points gets him to do his makeup live, or something to get people to want to like use those points.
That's a good point.
I don't know
Because
this.
once you are a subscriber,
Yeah.
those points, like you already unlocked the emojis, you already unlocked all those other things. The only thing that really you have a use for is highlighting your message. So
Yeah.
by adding something where he could go ahead and add some content, I'm pretty sure like people would go crazy. Like he could do gold dust makeup on live.
That would be pretty good.
Because I know what he's thinking about right now. That's the thing I haven't done.
What haven't you done?
There's a Cody Rhodes figure I'm supposed to paint. I'm supposed to paint for a year.
Yeah, but that's supposed to be for the YouTube. No one's gonna put money to have you finally paint the goddamn pop I bought 2.5 years ago. But yeah, no, that'd be a good idea. I mean, anybody who's still watching, what do you think about Clump doing gold dust paint live? I mean, that'd be pretty good. We could even set you up, Clump, where you could, obviously we give you the credentials. You could just log in and do it on any day. It's not necessarily even a show day, you know?
And
I got a vinyl bodysuit for other reasons.
Yeah.
What?
We figured.
And so that actually goes into the other idea I told him about, which is doing like maybe the occasional option to have like an after hours streaming together kind of thing where people can just have like a just chatting. Like there's a category on Twitch when you're just chatting.
Yeah.
Yep. This is
Like
all
just
good
being
for
able to
video.
hang out or just like kind of throw up ideas, have him do all that crazy stuff.
None of us are that social.
Yeah.
No, but
yeah.
you like being a comedian though. You like being silly and
And being shaped that way.
just throwing him under the bus. It's fine.
Yeah.
He married me. He chose to marry me.
No, yeah, I think we could do some cool stuff with that, especially if people have time to do that stuff right now. It looks like my schedule is gonna alter here in a bit, and that could potentially, it could definitely have both sides of it. It could either make it more difficult for me to do stuff on any given day, or free up different chunks of time in random points of the day where we could kind of change the idea of what we're doing. And we could even only archive this stuff for the Wrestling on the Rock stuff and then do just general chat to see what people think of it. We could do stuff like that. I like the idea of it. I'm still trying to figure out the bits. So I guess as we get more people in there, we can talk about the bits and find out. Let's see, 500 bits. It looks like is $7. So maybe we do. I think I like the idea of like, you know.
I thought you meant like bits like making fun of me and giving me shit.
No, so the points and the bits are two different things. Like the points, you earn points for watching, and so then you can trade those points in. Like there's like a streamer that I watch that a certain amount of points. I think it's like 4,000 points, and you get to share a YouTube link, 7,000, and he has to play the video game he's playing blindfolded for 5 minutes.
Oh, on the channel points. Okay, so we got to figure out more about channel points versus the bits, because I would say for something like 1,000 bits, Clump can just do makeup on the show while we're talking.
Like 1,000 bits would be a lot of money.
Will be like $14. So I think if someone's spending $14, then Clump can do his makeup.
That's true.
We had a person do that drinking at a bar and regret it the next day. Tell me that.
Yeah, it was great. It was awesome.
The bits.
It paid for our new mic.
There you go. So the bits. Some of the things that I've seen in other channels is things like they play like a certain GIF or a certain sound. So it could be if you send like X amount of bits, maybe it plays the John Cena song.
That'd be good.
Or like it'll play.
I think it's copyrighted, but I like the idea.
You're like, I don't know, like you're fired or something. Well, that's true. It's copyrighted.
Yeah, but we could probably clip some of my greatest farts and have those as playable songs.
I don't know.
We should do, if they had a top 10 career-defining moments for Triple H, we should compile a top 10 career-defining farts by Marsh.
No.
And then we could do the next week a top 10 career-defining shitty moments for Eric.
Yeah, we can do some good stuff with this. I will say this. It turns out that Taco Bell every Tuesday is giving away a different type of Dorito taco. I don't know how Kevlar guessed Tuesday over any other day. I thought it must have been a Saturday or maybe even a Monday.
It's because it's Taco Tuesday. That's the thing.
I just feel like it's hard to say Taco Bell would fall under that same category. I feel like that they think outside the bun.
They don't.
Just because they think outside the bun doesn't mean that they think outside the box.
No, they have a box. You can buy the Taco Bell box. It's like $5. It's like a $5 box.
They also have a taco party pack that's a bigger box. That's like a small lunch for me.
It's true.
I scared her eating lunch today. It was great.
I think you scare most people eating lunch.
Oh God. You ate so much. I don't even. How are you alive?
We are back.
And we're live, man. What a good show. Going so good. Flawless. This is like Mortal Kombat flawless victory. Seamless. This is high level shit. How you guys feeling about everything?
Good. Yeah.
Good.
You excited for Money in the Bank getting on the top of the corporate ladder?
Yeah.
Really?
I'm curious to see how it goes. I like the pay-per-views in this era.
Yeah, that's true. I'm excited to see how they play through on this one, but I guess we'll find out in like a week's time. But until then, I think that's all we got to say. Anything else you guys want to throw in there?
I was just going to say the Street Profits little promo was decent for once.
You know what? We said the same thing, that with them not screaming, it actually came out as a decent promo.
Yeah. That's it. That's all I needed to say.
Yeah. For the first time, we're like, okay, that wasn't terrible. And I think it's because they dialed it down a notch. Instead of screaming at us, they just talked to us, and it was easier to digest.
Yeah.
So I agree. With that, the first time we did not shit on them. Last call, bros.
Let's go.
Boom.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Till next
Thank
week.
you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Check us out at WrestlingOnTheRocks.com to find all of our shit.
Yep.